If you want to talk about Division III basketball, you've logged on to the right place.
Welcome to the big show.
Whereas on the men's side, I think they overloaded two of the brackets, and as a result, I think we're not going to get a good Final Four in the sense of who everyone really would like to see there.
The system is a mess, guys, but I think that's neither here nor there. And
the next 3 hours, we'll cover it all.
We don't have the time to move pieces because conferences are playing their title games on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, for God's sake.
I'll tell you what, I'll support them. You guys are going to get to the Sweet 16 and get annihilated by Stevens Point.
With regional reports.
We've talked a lot about the fact on the men's side that there's not a lot of dominant teams, and the flip side of that is that you have a lot of parity. It makes the conference races exciting.
And interviews with coaches.
Hey, it's great to be on Hoopsville. I tell you, it's that time of the year.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
This D3 basketball is the greatest. The players, they play because they love it. They're fun. The teams are playing. You go to these other campuses. It's where it's at.
And we knew that the ODAC competition was going to be very tough. We knew that each coach had done their job with recruiting. And there were so many young teams that we just knew that each and every night when we played an ODAC contest that we had our work cut out for us.
We'll talk about who's on top.
And the CCRW is much like the Wisconsin League, the WIAC, in that, I mean, really, it's a cliche, but it's true. On any night, anyone can beat you.
Those surprises.
Every game counts, especially
play
the
your
regional
season.
games. Yeah.
Don't lose to a bad team.
Well, and don't lose your conference tournament.
And who's making news in Division III.
We got an awful tough league, and we have some tough games this week, but we're still tied for first place in our league in the loss column.
And as you point out, they're not a reliable team in the NCAA tournament. They've proven it year in and year out that you can't count.
You can even join in and chat with us.
I mean, this lower right-hand bracket is loaded.
This bracket is ridiculous. I mean, you could take a final. This could be a Final Four bracket.
You want to play that Thursday game because you have not won an NCAA tournament game. You got to go out there and show yourselves that you can actually do it.
So sit back and relax, and let's talk D3 hoops.
We talked before about Hope Calvin being far and away the #1 rivalry in Division III basketball. You can't dispute it.
I think the WIAC always deserves 2 teams in the poll for sure, and probably 3.
Well, one, I think they got the easiest run to a possible Final Four. They don't have a lot of challenges on the way.
There were 3 teams in that region that deserved first-round buys.
Exactly.
And only 2 could get them.
Now it's time for Hoopsville.
Great show. Keep this up. This is a good thing for D3, and I will enjoy listening to the rest of the show.
Let's get it started in here.
Everybody, let's get into it. Get stoked, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started.
Here's your host, Dave McHugh.
And welcome everybody to Hoopsville on the self-titled Selection Sunday. For the most part, selections will be made today. They won't be announced till tomorrow, but they are going to be made today, and we welcome you into Hoopsville. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 or join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. Of course, there's always the chat room located just to the right of your screen. Number of people in there already, and we welcome everybody in. Again, fire away with your questions. We would love to hear what you have to say, and we will try and keep it as busy and informed as we possibly can tonight. Final score just in. Guilford has beaten Randolph-Macon in the ODAC tournament 81-65. Hard-pressed to believe that 4 teams will not be coming out of the ODAC on the men's side. And in also Louisiana College defeated McMurray 73-69 in overtime in women's basketball action. Lots to get covered, lots to cover. We got to figure out who's in and who's out of the NCAA tournaments. Remember, the brackets will be announced tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock Eastern time for the men, and 12:30, I believe, for the women on NCAA.com. Of course, we'll have all that information right here on D3Hoops.com. The bet is their server crashes. But that's just our bet. Hey, by the way, a little game we're going to be playing all game long, or else show long, would be with Chris. He's going to have a saying up on the board the entire time. And Chris, let's talk to him about the first saying. What is it?
First one on the board, Dave, is you down with OOWP?
That's it.
Of course, that's opponents' winning percentage.
Exactly.
I'm surprised we made it through a whole show last Thursday without mentioning it.
Well, it's all about that strength of schedule now, and so anyway, we'll certainly talk about those. Chris is going to have a new one up on the board the entire night, so don't be afraid to check that out. And speaking of you know me, Pat Coleman joins us on the hotline. He's going to be here almost all night long. Pat, how are you?
Well, I'm considering I had about 3 hours of sleep, and my women's bracket projection just survived overtime in Pineville, Louisiana.
Well, good.
I'm feeling all right. Now I just have to take these 64 teams and my my 16 pods and throw them onto a bracket so everybody else can look at them. But the women's bracket projection is done. We don't really want to talk about women's Pool B, and I wanted to thank Gordon Mann for doing the heavy lifting with me on the women's bracketology this afternoon and pulling the late night shift last night. Our good friend Coach C, Chris Pisotsky, former NCAA committee observer, helping me out, getting me batting around the men's projection.
Of course, Coach C, you mentioned Pisotsky's his last name. I think at this point in time after last night, it might be more like Coach Chris.
Coach Z.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I want to try and bring your CG up, so if I drop the audio, everybody, we're trying a new system here. I'm hoping I don't do it.
Well,
and we didn't. There you are, Hoopsville Hotline, Pat Coleman, D3Hoops.com, editor-in-chief.
Now you can hear me. Ooh, fancy graphics.
Yeah, I know. We're having a little too much fun with it, I'll admit. So, and now you're seeing duct tape that we've got up on the camera. We like to make things challenging. Anyway, hey, Pat, lots to cover, obviously. There's tons of going on, tons of questions that are going to be flying around. Again, everybody, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. And you can join us in the chat room as well, or join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. First and foremost, really the night is all about who's in and who's out, and we're not talking about specifically I'm sorry, I'm thinking three things at the same time. We're not thinking specifically, the automatic bids. We're thinking about the Pool Bs and Pool Cs, and really in the last 48 some odd hours, that Pool C picture's become a little bit muddled.
Yeah, and especially in the past, it was about 15 minutes ago. Mary Hardin Baylor knocked off Texas Dallas 80-70 in the men's basketball championship game for the ASC. We had Mary Hardin Baylor on the outside if they did not win, so their win takes a spot away from somebody. Anderson College or Anderson University. Anderson in Anderson, Indiana.
Anderson. They'll be on soon.
Was our last team on our list. They would be the first team to be bumped. So we'll have to see how that jiggles around. I can't just wholesale lift Anderson out of the Eastern Mennonite bracket and put Texas Dallas in or put Mary Hardin Baylor in because of the whole darn flight thing. But I think I move Grove City into the Anderson spot, and I bring Texas Dallas. I put Mary Hardin Baylor up against Virginia Wesleyan and swap Christopher Newport down to play Texas Dallas, so those two teams don't have to play each other in the first round, and they play at Virginia Wesleyan. That would be my first kind of chicken scratch update of that bracket projection.
And by the way, impressive that you have a bracket out on the men's side of things, let me just say.
Well, it's getting to the point, especially since the women are doing 64 and there are no buys.
Right.
I might as well just I felt like we were answering too many questions about from people who didn't understand the way I was running out the boxes the past 10 years. So
Certainly.
I figured I would try making it up like this and see if it resonated more with people.
Certainly. Pat Coleman joining us on the Hoopsville hotline. He'll be on and off all day long, or all evening long. We also have other coaches lined up. Hey, how about Grove City making the PAC championship game and then beating Thomas More? We're going to chat with their head coach. Pat, first time they've made the NCAA tournament since '89.
Yeah, that's they've won the President's Athletic Conference before, but they won it in the last year before the conference got an automatic bid. They made a nice little Cinderella run through. I think they ended up 13-12 or 14-12. There was no way they were going to get in Pool B with that kind of record. So this is it's a nice reward for them. And they're going to be those kind of stories on campuses across the country. Eastern Mennonite obviously has probably known for some time it was going to the NCAA tournament, but they haven't been in quite some time. SUNY Purchase, I don't think, has ever been to the NCAA tournament. They're very short-term members of the NCAA. So, there are a lot of schools are going to be experiencing this for the first time, and that's part of the beauty of this time of year.
Yeah, certainly. Grove City, as you mentioned, will be on. St. Mary's of Maryland will be on. We're going to hear from Coach McGrath out of Chicago. They're not in, but we got other things to talk to him about. Anderson's head coach is going to be on. Gustavus Adolphus' women's head coach is going to be on. We're making overtures to other coaches as well, including Muhlenberg's women. So lots to try and figure out between now and then. And actually, we're going to make the call to Grove City here shortly and get them on. Pat, what might have been the biggest surprise we've had in the last 48 hours, in your opinion?
In 48 hours,
since Thursday's show, I should say.
Sure. No, that's fine. I'm just kind of mentalizing.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, thanks. It's not very good at that rate. I would say it's not MIT losing to Clark. I don't think that was very surprising at all, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
MIT almost lost at Clark in the regular season. Yep. They lost another game to a sub-500 team in Wheaton, Massachusetts. So I would say emphatically not surprised there. It's surprised that on my board here I have Albertus Magnus winning both the Great Northeast and the Commonwealth Coast. Very nice.
Nice.
Let me see if I can fix that.
That is some talent. Let me hand off 2 automatic bids for them. Let me just congratulate them first and foremost.
Yeah, but they have to play each other. That's the thing.
Oh man. Well, at least one of them goes through.
No, I think. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I think one of the things that was great was there were a couple of great cross-street rivalries that played last night.
Yeah.
Not just Pomona-Pitzer and Claremont Mudscripts, which is not only a cross-street rivalry. I call it an on-campus rivalry because they're all in the same,
right.
square blocks, many square blocks in Southern California. I think that the Nazareth St. John Fisher game was the other one I was thinking of in that light. That was a great game. I thought the game I was at was pretty darn entertaining, and not to be a homer or anything, but the Carleton beating Gustavus Adolphus in overtime. We were pretty sure, from what people were saying there, that it was the first time that anybody in the MIAC had gone on the road and beaten both St. Thomas and Gustavus Adolphus in the same tournament.
Wow.
These are two teams that have at least one of them has played in each of the last 22 MIAC conference title games or something of that order. So
pretty impressive.
That's a pretty big feat. That, to be honest with you, that's probably one of my biggest surprises. If to extend back through the semifinals on Thursday night, Carleton's little run there. Clark is the 5 seed. Maybe not all that surprising, just because you get by MIT, and then Clark is WPI is a big rival for Clark. There's one of those 5 schools in Worcester, Mass, in Division III. Yeah, I totally did not get that right. That accent right. I apologize. Worcester. I got the Worcester part. It's the Mass I can't get.
Mass.
Yeah.
Mass. Like
it was a.
I can't even describe it to you.
I'm going to try to let it go. That was my weekend. Not surprised by Christopher Newport, even though they were a 4 seed.
Really?
They were hosting in the non-neutral site of their own home gymnasium.
Yeah.
So, I was surprised by the traffic around all sorts of basketball games on Saturday. Not just the ones we were doing, but other ones on Ustream, like the Allegheny Mountain Collegiate Conference Championship game, which was drawing close to 100 viewers, almost as many as our games were. The University of Chicago Wash U games were drawing great viewership numbers as well. There's a lot of interest out there, and a lot of traffic around video broadcasts and the interactive stuff that Ustream does, and that some other providers have.
Sure. Pat Coleman joining us here on Hoopsville, as always. Of course, 4 hours here, ladies and gentlemen, of answering your questions about the NCAA tournament. And if you do have those questions, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. Always would love to hear from you, and we'll do what we can to answer those questions along the way. Pat's going to quickly run off. We're going to now transition over to the other part of our Hoopsville hotline, and that is joining us on the line with the PAC is champion Grove City head coach Steve Lamy. Coach, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Did I say your name right? I didn't even look at my cheat sheet, and I said that on the whim.
Yes, it's Lammy.
Lammy, there we go.
Yes.
See, I totally did not say that right. Hey,
Close
Coach, congratulations first and foremost. Heck of a run in the PAC tournament, defeating Washington and Jefferson and then Thomas More for the title, 78-61. You know, congratulations first off, but wow, you dominated Thomas More.
It was, we got out to an early lead. I think it was 20-4. It was probably our best basketball that we have played. And then from there, we did not relinquish the lead, but I was thinking about this last night as I was just running through the season, and I really believe that we played our best basketball that game in terms of our offense, which has been up and down and inconsistent, but that game, for whatever reason, and I'm not complaining, it could have been our best basketball on the offensive end.
You know, again, 78-61 the win, and earlier than that, 63-59. You had to have a feeling, though, you were not making the tournament unless you win this game. I mean, that almost goes kind of status quo for it.
Yeah, we were never ranked in the region, and I know that Thomas More was at some point. In fact, I think they were in the last ranking, and also Bethany was getting consideration as well from our league. So we knew going in that it was one shot, and that was to win it on Saturday night.
Sure. Talking to Coach Steve Lamy, Coach Lamy of Grove City head coach. Moving on to the NCAA tournament with the automatic bid, beating Thomas More. Coach, this is technically, I believe, your fourth PAC title, but the first time you're going to the NCAA tournament since '89.
That's right.
I know there hasn't been tons of time to react, but any reaction on campus yet?
No. And we were actually on a winter break. So from Thursday morning through tomorrow, our students have been gone. So we did not have much of a fan base there. A few hundred kids were still on campus because they were snowbound and had no place to go or were such a distance from campus. So we had the townsfolk there and a few hundred students, but I don't know what the reaction is going to be when we get back to school on Monday.
Yeah, I'm suspecting it's going to be pretty big.
I hope.
Yeah, well, you can only hope, right? As we're talking to Coach Steve Lamy. And if you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. We would love to hear from you and whatever you may have to say. Coach, let's talk about your team real quick. Again, you're 12th season, I believe, as head coach.
Yeah.
You've certainly been there a long time to know Grove City basketball pretty well in this conference. And talk to me about your team. Andy O'Keefe's your leader at 17.8 points a game and 5.7 rebounds, 13 points out of Brett Matson, etc. Tell us a little bit about this team that maybe not everybody realizes.
I think when we started the season, we really didn't know what our strengths were going to be, and we went through the first maybe 7 or 8 games and just kind of struggled through it to try to find our identity.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was obvious that Andy O'Keefe, our starting center, was the guy that we had to revolve the offense around. And it was really at that point, it was probably mid-December, where we made an intentional effort to get him the ball. And from that point on, I think we were a different team. And everything flowed from that. He was getting the ball early in the possession, and then when people were doubling down on him, it opened up our perimeter game. And as that was developing, I think some of those other guys on the team started to get some confidence, get their feet wet. I mean, some of them were just first-year starters or did not play a lot the year before. I'm talking about Drew Vandermeer, who started a few games as a freshman, but all the games as a sophomore. Brett Matson, who was our starting point guard, the same thing. And as Andy O'Keefe, our starting center, carried the weight early, the other guys just developed again, got confidence in their games. And by the end of the season, even though we were pinpointing the center as our go-to guy, it opened up the other players and their abilities to score.
Talking to Coach Steve Lammy of Grove City about the program and how you guys have been doing so far. At home, 10-2 overall. On the road, 7-6. You have to figure you're going to be probably hitting the road. Granted, neutral games are 2-0, so essentially 9-6 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure you're going to be traveling a little bit. Are you guys prepared for wherever you may end up going?
I do believe so, and we've already told the guys that we're going on the road. I don't think there's any question about that. We're going to Ohio or Michigan, but the early part of our season was almost all road games.
Right.
I want to say the first 6 of 7, we were either on the road or in neutral venues. So that prepared us, I think, for playing on the road. And we believe that to win on the road, you have to play defense, and that's our calling card. That's been the strongest part of our game, and maybe the strongest part of our program going back for the last 2 decades.
Well, one of the things about traveling on the road certainly that makes it a little bit more interesting challenge with the NCAA tournament. You're not going to get tapes of this team until the last minute, whoever you end up playing. And obviously you're going to have to form a game plan around that. This is something, and you may be facing a team you've never seen before, your players have seen before, with a new style and all that. How are you planning on handling that? How do you think your team will handle all that?
That's a good question, and maybe a way of answering that is at the halftime of the Thomas More game, as we huddled as a coaching staff, we huddled for about 5 minutes and then went into the locker room to talk to the players and give them the game plan for the last 20 minutes. But it was interesting because we got in there, and even before we started to write on the board and chalk talk, our players were making the adjustments. They had made the adjustments in the 5 minutes that the coaching staff was not even there. And we actually followed their lead. And as they left the locker room, we chuckled as a staff saying, they don't even need us. But
well,
the reason I say that
congrats, Coach.
Yeah, they were making the adjustments on the fly without us having to give them our input. So I think at this point, and with the maturity that we have in our senior leadership, I think that's going to help us with whomever we have to play on a short notice.
Obviously, short notice. Do you have any idea who you think might be traveling, knowing the way brackets may be put together?
I have looked on the website, and I really have no idea. I have no idea. But again, I think that we would, if we're staying in region, we're going to go maybe to Worcester, maybe up to Hope, Calvin, if they make the tournament. I would venture to guess one of those 3 teams.
Yeah, it certainly would be interesting to see. Your SID kind of mentioned to me that, at one point Grove City always tends to head to the east when it comes to these situations. I'm assuming you're not expecting that.
Yeah, I don't. And I know that the 4 times that we made the tournament in the past, 76, 79, 83, and in 89, we were part of the Mid-Atlantic region. And so we did travel towards the east. But I think since the late 90s or early 90s, we have been part of the Great Lakes region.
Yeah, it certainly has changed quite a bit since you guys are in the Mid-Atlantic. Of course, on the D3 Hoops bracket projections, we have you traveling to Virginia Wesleyan.
Okay.
So at least maybe you can get a nice leisurely visit there on the beach.
Hey, I wouldn't mind that because what I was doing all this morning was shoveling the 8 inches of snow that was on my driveway. We were snowbound here.
Well, I know the feeling a little bit, Coach. Here in the Baltimore area, we have pretty much decided to get rid of snow for the rest of our lives. And I'm from New England. Yeah, I'm done with it. Hey, let me ask you a few other things because the great thing here is your SID is terrific.
He is. Ryan Briggs is the best. Right-hand man.
So we gave me a ton of great info. Let's just read through it. You led the league in scoring and field goal percentage on defense. I should say scoring defense and field goal percentage defense. Held Thomas More to a season-low 61. And 9 of the last 15 regular season opponents was 54 points or less, including 5 under 50. If there's a way to win in the NCAA tournament, it's going to be defense. Do you think that gives you any advantage despite the fact you guys haven't been there in a long time?
I think it does, and at least our players will believe that because we preach it all the time, that if we have, over the long haul of our program, maybe limited talent or I don't want to downplay the talent that we have on our team. It's good, but it allows us to stay in games.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one constant. And I could say that about any team that I've coached here, is that there is a buy-in on the defensive end that is something that, whether the offense is there or not, we can stay with people
right,
and do it consistently if we just apply our defensive principles to the game.
Very
so I think it may help us. I think it has to help us.
Sure.
If we're going to be successful.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you joining us on the line. Congratulations on the title and heading to the NCAA tournament. Certainly impressive, to say the least. Good luck. We'll find out obviously where you're playing tomorrow, but good luck nonetheless. And maybe you can get one or two more games under your belts here. It certainly would be impressive.
We'd love to.
And as always, with tradition implies, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with us here on Hoopsville?
No, I appreciate the time that you've given me to talk. Thank you very much.
Hey, no problem. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Okay, take care.
All right, Coach.
Bye.
Bye, Coach Steve Lammy. Joining us here on Hoopsville. Appreciate him taking the time to do that. Get any questions for us? Email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. That always works as well. The chat room is just to the right of your viewing screen. That will certainly help you, get some questions answered, whether it's on the air or not. We got a ton of people in there right now. Of course, also paying attention to the USA-Canada hockey game, which tied at 2 and heading to the overtime. So we'll keep abreast of that over my shoulder. If Chris looks like he's staring at something, that's what it's going to be. So lots of things to answer in there. I may have missed some questions. If I did, I apologize. I know there's a few of us monitoring things in there, so we'll see what happens. I know there was an ask of who may get first-round buys on the men's side of things, and I think some good guesses at Williams, Patterson, and Guilford, maybe even WashU. I agree with Pat Coleman there. I think WashU, Whitworth strictly for geographic reasons. I'm wondering what they're going to do with the Texas teams now that Mary Hardin Baylor won, but there's a lot of options here, and we'll see what happens. But wouldn't be surprised where they, besides Whitworth, I wouldn't be surprised at almost any buy at this point in time. So lots to cover. If you have any questions, again, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. We'll certainly love to hear from you there. We're going to switch gears again, go to another conference champion, and that's the Capital Athletic Conference champion, and that is St. Mary's, and Coach Chris Harney joins us on the line. Coach, welcome to the program.
Guys, how are you?
Doing pretty good. I know we chatted yesterday a little bit after that big win over Wesley. 24 hours later, how you feeling?
I'm tired. This has been, I'm sure every coach can relate. It's, with the snow that we got in the Mid-Atlantic, there were, makeup games and rescheduled games, and this has just been a whirlwind 2 weeks.
Sure.
Just night in and night out. Practice game, and and everyone we faced has just been, bringing their A game, and it's been a hard-fought battle, but it does feel a little rewarding, at the end to come up with the cup. And so part of that feels good, and now it's gearing up and seeing how things play out for tomorrow.
Right. 24-3 on the season, obviously an improvement over last year. Last year you set the wins record at 21. This year you improved by 3 and hope to improve by more. But last year you stumbled in the CAC semifinals, and what looked like a good bid ended up being for naught. You didn't make the NCAA tournament. Was there any memory of that, any mentality of that going into yesterday's game, or really going into the CAC tournament, I should say?
Yeah, there definitely was. It was more on the players' minds. They put it on themselves. I didn't really focus much on it, to be honest with you. I talked often about just dealing with what's in front of you and not worrying about the other stuff. But they're like teenagers. They they don't listen, and they talked a lot amongst each other about it, and they were very driven to kind of redeem themselves. We really felt last year that it was on us. I think a lot of people tried to comfort us by saying, oh, you got a bad situation, or people had it out for us or something, and that wasn't the case at all. We should have won the game, and it was really on us, and we knew that, and we weren't going to make excuses, and so this, in some ways, this was a nice way to kind of redeem that. But again, as far as I go, I just worry about what's in front of us, but I do think the guys were thinking about it, and it was something that they wanted. I know that they wanted, they definitely wanted that. I know Camonte Griffin really wanted to atone for that, especially as a senior. And I know that Alex, he really took it to heart because he felt bad for the seniors from last year that had missed that opportunity. So it was a little bit of a storybook, moment, but again, try to keep it all in perspective, and we're just happy to be, have an opportunity now in the national tournament and just keep promoting all the work we're doing.
Sure. Talking to Coach Chris Harney of St. Mary's College Seahawks, who won the Capital Athletic Conference over Wesley yesterday. But Coach, it wasn't exactly easy. You guys had a 14-point lead early in the second half. The next thing you know, Wesley starts working back on you guys and actually takes a 2-point lead with a couple minutes left. You had to have been thinking at some point in time, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah, I expected it. I can tell you right now, you could take every single game we've played against Wesley and put them all together and get some popcorn and have an ESPN Classic showcase. Every time we play Wesley, it is great basketball. And I can't say enough about the Wesley, and I don't want to sound like the coach who won and then says that. Those guys play about as hard as I've ever seen. And when that game's over, they line up and they shake hands and they genuinely say, "Hey, good game, you got us." It's really what the game ought to be about. And every game we play with them is just two really good teams just going head to head, and they both want it so bad. I really feel for them. I'll be honest with you, and I said it before. I really like their players. That I love the attitude they have. I love how hard they play. And so I always expect the game to be a war with them, always. In fact, we said it at halftime. We said, man, they're coming,
Right.
And it's just really good basketball. It's just so, it's a battle. And if you love the game, you really, it's a lot of man-to-man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of talented guard play. And, I think, one difference in our teams is that our style, or maybe I should say our structure is a little different, where Wesley's a little more guard-oriented than we are, and we try to be a little more balanced with bigs and guards, and so it makes for a really neat matchup, and it's always a tough game.
Coach, I may have seen one of the strangest plays in basketball yesterday in that Wesley game, and not to mention the fact it may have been the deciding play. Let's set it up a little bit. Wesley had the ball. I want to say you guys had a 2-point lead or a 1-point lead, maybe a 2-point lead. Wesley looking to get back into it, or at least try and tie it. And a tip pass at the top of the key by Alex appears to be going out of bounds, and I clearly said it was going out of bounds, until it hits a referee squarely in the side of the head, bounces towards your basket. Alex, who had tipped it, grabs it and goes in for the layup. Really, that's a deciding play right there with less than a minute left in the game. Have you, though, seen such a strange play, especially that means so much?
Yeah, I'll tell you what was amazing to me about that, and I knew right away, is Alex Franz. Alex Franz he's a little bit of an oddball, and people that know him would understand what I mean by that. And God knows I love him to death. Alex is the kind of kid that basically isn't comfortable anywhere in the world unless he's in a gym.
Yeah.
He's not the type of player that goes in the gym and does drills all day. And that let me clarify that. He's the guy that goes in the gym and basically plays pickup 24 hours.
Sure.
He hangs around men's leagues, and when they need one, he ends up playing like 9-10 games a day throughout the summer. And if there's anyone that knows every single rule and unusual circumstance, and I'm telling you right now, before that ball just as that ball came off the referee's head, Alex already knew that it was in play because the ref was in play. And everyone else in the gym, including every other player, wasn't sure if it was still in play or if it was a dead ball.
Well, as long as he's in bounds.
Exactly. And I mean, and a lot of people were just formulating those thoughts in their head, like, is it? And he was already on his way to go get it and take it the other way. And that, and again, he's that type of kid. He knew right away that ball was in play. And I mean, everyone froze.
Right.
And took it the other way for a critical layup.
Either that, Coach, or Franz is like some other players I know, like, I got the ball, I'm going to run until I hear a whistle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he knew because he knew as soon as, I mean, he came off the court on the timeout, and he, was saying, he's like, yeah, I knew it was in play, because his feet were in play.
Yep.
So,
of course, 1 foot out of bounds, and that changes everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Yeah, everything. It was such a big possession.
Hey, Coach, wrapping up a little bit here, let's talk about your team just a little bit more in detail. And Camonte Griffin has been your go-to guy, obviously. 33 points in the Marymount semifinal game, and then only a handful of points, really 11, I believe, yesterday against Wesley. And you and I talked after the game. He's certainly a great player, but, man, if a defense has his number or are able to shut him down, he quickly disappears.
Well, he had 9 assists.
Well, true.
I would say,
that helps.
He had 9 assists, and he would have had 11. Our one freshman guard, Devin Spencer, who is his little brother on the team. Those two go for hours playing one-on-one. I mean, they'll. I don't even want to think about how many hours after our practice those two spend in the gym playing one-on-one. But they, he gave Devin 2 wide open looks that, he was a little short on. But usually he grooves those, and he would have had 11 assists on the day. And what Wesley did was what a lot of teams do. They load up the side when Camonte has the ball,
right?
And they stuff every help defender in every gap they can find. And in that game, if you look at that game, James Davenport had, I believe he had 4 or 5 threes at the half, and James was our weak side guard, and Camonte just found him with skip passes and driving kicks. And, Camonte's smart enough. He knows what's there and he knows what's not. So again, for 9 assists, it doesn't happen every day. And I thought he played a great game. I mean, he didn't shoot the ball all that well, but again, he was going against a team that was, basically putting 5 guys in his path.
Right.
And I'll take the 9 assists and a win.
Of course, you had 2 guys inside who stepped up big, and Sam Burham and not inside. I'm sorry, outside. And Davenport certainly helped, but you're going to need everybody contributing from here on out, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that all year long. Guys have stepped up at different times, and I mean that's part of having a successful season. You're never going to win games for extended periods of time with 1 or 2 players doing everything. And, we've talked about that for weeks. Even throughout this run, we've talked about how other guys need to step up and not be role players, but be players. And Sam and James were good examples of that. I mean, Sam Burham alone is about as good as a feel-good story as you can find. I mean, his freshman year, he probably didn't play at all. And his sophomore year, maybe he got 1 or 2 minutes a game. And then he steps up and with the departure of 2 of our senior forwards and, becomes one heck of a starting forward. And that's just his dedication, and work and effort in the off season. And, it's a good story. It's a real good story. And, these guys care about each other, and that's why we're winning games. That's really the bottom line.
Obviously, from here on out, it's even more important as you make the NCAA tournament for the 3rd time in 4 years, I believe. Is that right? 2 out of 3, I know for sure. I might have been guessing on the other one. Coach,
2 out of 3, yeah.
2 out of 3.
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
Hey, Coach, congratulations for sure. Appreciate you joining us here on Hoopsville. As we wrap it up and look down the road, any final thoughts you want to share with those listening?
I just hope everybody's excited. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that, D3 sports, and I mean, in particular, D3 basketball is just, it's a unique thing. I had a number of people that came up to me about the at-large situation, and they assume it's like D1 where you have 18 or 19 wins and you have a good schedule and you're getting an at-large. That's not the case in D3. It's hard to get into that tournament. So I can say that I'm sure everyone that's gotten in, I think is is obviously excited and deserving, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it really is its own unique animal. I think the D3 men's basketball tournament. I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're excited about it. We're just looking forward, to the opportunity. We'd like to host. That's what we're crossing our fingers for that. That would be real special for our college and for the community around us. But we'll take what we can get, and like I said, deal with what's in front of us.
Very good. Hey, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way. Maybe I'll see you next weekend at that hosting opportunity. If not, good luck at least in the NCAA tournament, and we'll talk soon.
That sounds great. Maybe we'll see you in Salem.
Yeah, that'd be even nicer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Very good. Coach Chris Harney from St. Mary's joining us here on the Hoopsville hotline. Appreciate him joining us and doing that. Hey, if you got any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. We'll be happy to answer your question. Got a question about Brandeis women making the NCAA tournament. We'll let you know the answer to that as soon as we get an opportunity. I think they look pretty good to make it. Granted, there's going to be a ton of teams coming out of there anyway. Out of the Northeast to begin with, but I think Brandeis women have a chance. I'm sure I'll be. Oh no, I'm being corrected. Apparently, no. I might have looked up Brandeis's men when trying to look up that information, so I apologize to the IMer who was asking me. Pat pretty much assuredly says no. And I guess I was looking at the men information. I know men, it looks like they're projected to make it, but I misspoke, so I apologize. Of course, final regional rankings are actually being done. Selections are actually being made today, but we will not know those answers until tomorrow when the brackets are announced. And for those wondering when the regional rankings will be posted, the answer is I don't know. I simply never got that information myself. I'm pretty sure, and I agree with those who think about the ODAC men, I'm pretty sure 4 will get in there as well. So lots to cover. So I apologize to the IMer. No chance, it sounds like, for the women on Brandeis to get in. I must have looked up the men's roster and saw that and strength of schedule and stuff, and I might have gotten it wrong, so I apologize. Here's the latest projections for Pool C on the men's side. I'll read these off to you, and then we'll take a break. William Patterson, Carthage, Ithaca, Puget Sound. This is women, I'm sorry. Women. Well, I should have known that reading the list. William Patterson, Carthage, Ithaca, Puget Sound, Lebanon Valley, Colby, Washington and Jefferson, Scranton, Mary Washington, Chicago, Bowdoin, Tufts, Rochester, Muhlenberg, who lost today to McDaniel, Capital, Mount St. Mary's, Gettysburg, and that win by McDaniel may have gotten Gettysburg in. Roanoke, UW Whitewater, Gustavus Adolphus, we'll hopefully be talking to their coach a little bit later, and St. Benedict. That's the C's for women in Division III, or D3Hoops.com. Remember, there's 21 of them making up the bracket. There are 41 at-large bids, 2 Pool B bids, and 21 Pool C's. And I suspect we'll go through that a little bit more. But again, William Patterson, Carthage, Ithaca, Puget Sound, Lebanon Valley, Colby, Washington and Jefferson, Scranton, Mary Washington, Chicago, Bowdoin, Tufts, Rochester, Muhlenberg, Capital, Mount St. Mary, Gettysburg, Roanoke, UW Whitewater, Gustavus Adolphus, and St. Benedict get in. Now, another interesting one in there is Mount St. Mary's. These are the projected ones, again, by D3Hoops.com. Mount St. Mary and Farmingdale State played a game today that many thought the loser would be seeing the outside of the NCAA tournament. So interesting that Mount St. Mary got that, according to D3Hoops.com. Hey, we're going to have to take a break so that we can rest up for these 4 hours. We got 3+ hours left. I know you got lots of questions, so email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. Either way, you can find out what's going on. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. We'll try and answer your questions online and on air throughout the night. And when we come back, we'll also be talking... Actually, who are we talking about?
Gordon Mann.
Oh, that's right. Gordon Mann should be calling here momentarily. We'll get him on the line and talk to him. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and broadcasting thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back after this.
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Effort, drive, and determination build champions. Be there March 19th through 20th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia for the 2010 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, hosted by Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. For tickets, call 540-375-3004 or log on to ncaa.com/tickets.
Did you know Division III basketball has a radio show completely dedicated to them every week?
Welcome to the big show.
Well, they do. You can tune into Hoopsville every Sunday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, live on your computer.
Great show.
Just go to d3hoops.com and click on the Hoopsville link for more information. Because if you're a Division III basketball fan, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Hoopsville is presented thanks to Goucher College Radio and d3hoops.com.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
All season long, let D3Football.com be your home for all the Division III football action on the road to the Stag Bowl. From interactive blogs and message boards to columns from around the region and around the nation on your favorite teams, nobody covers NCAA Division III better than D3Football.com. As the playoffs approach, get the scoop on who's in and who's out from the experts who picked all 32 teams last year. Don't go anywhere else. Get the info from the source for Division III football at www.d3football.com.
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA in Boston, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays? Yes. Yes.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting in the Hoopsville studios, thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches and, of course, D3Hoops.com. Not going to waste any other time. By the way, before I waste any more time, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room just to the right of your screen. And you can also join us on Twitter. Just look up Hoopsville, or D3Hoopsville is our address. Joining us on the line is now the D3Hoops.com Deputy Managing Editor. Of course, he's our Atlantic and Mid-Atlantic regional reporter as well, Gordon Mann. Gordon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Obviously, we've all been busy recently. I know you've been busy, and women's basketball certainly has been something you've been focusing on the last few days and got some questions. And do you mind if I throw a few of those questions at you first?
No, sure, fire away.
Okay, for starters, I got a question about Southern Maine. Will they make the tourney?
No, we don't have Southern Maine, and they've had a tremendous run. They've had the last time they missed a tournament was in 1994. They've had a great run, but if you look at the most recent regional rankings, they were number 9. And the problem they have is they're number 9, but of the 8 teams in front of them, 6 of them are in the same are in 2 conferences. Nice. So that means it would take them a long time to get to the table.
Yeah.
And frankly, you look at the top 5, they're all NESCAC teams: Amherst, Colby, Bowdoin, Tufts, Williams. That order probably won't change. Williams was eliminated in the first week of the conference tournament, as was Tufts. So unless you think that with a conference championship, Western Connecticut State steps over them, but it doesn't
Right.
matter because they have the at-large bid. You would basically have to decide that you're going to put 5 NESCAC teams in the tournament,
Right.
And a second LEC team, and then that would probably be Southern Maine. But it doesn't look like it'll happen.
The other question was Brandeis women's 6th strongest SOS over the weekend. Last numbers run 16-8, I think was their record. I can't remember their record. But the question was, hopefully, I mentioned this in an IM to the person, but I just want to remind them. Hopes the committee will take into account Brandeis' hot finish. This isn't D1. D1 has an element of how you did in the last 10 games. This is D3, which means a game you played on November 15th means just as much as a game you played on February 28th.
Yeah, and Brandeis was not in the most recent regional rankings, and frankly, nothing happened this week that would change that. The only teams, Babson won its title. Emmanuel might sneak into the rankings if you decide that Eastern needs to drop out. But Brandeis has the same problem Southern Maine would, that they're lumped behind a lot of teams. And remember, regionality matters when they pick the at-large bids, because if you're stuck behind a number of teams, then you can't ever get onto the table to be picked. And looking at they've got a loss to Love, to Tufts, a loss to Emmanuel, a loss to the University of New England, who's in the tournament, a loss to WashU, who's in the tournament, a loss to Chicago, who's in the tournament. Emory won't be. That's another loss. 2 more losses, Chicago and WashU. So they've got a lot of losses to teams that are in the tournament, and that's part of being in that. They, as far as wins over teams, take their own conference out of it for a second.
Yep.
I see one. They beat Babson, who won the NEWMAC, and that's it. They've the way Brandeis usually builds a pretty solid schedule, you really have to win. They have to win some of those big games early in the year, because they know they're going to take a fair number of losses once they get to conference play.
Right. By the way, the post after the commercial break by Chris over my shoulder on the grease board, in case anyone's curious, he's a man-eater. Yes, Gordon, it's spelled like your last name. So Chris is having fun. Chris.
Well, Daryl Hall and John Oates will be giving you a call about copyright infringement sometime in the near future.
I'm just going to reference them to you, because we spelled it with 2 N's.
Well, I live here in Philadelphia, so they're probably local.
There you go. There you go. Hey, another question I had for you was from your vantage point. Obviously, things are a lot more transparent from the NCAA. We understood how they were doing strength of schedule maybe more officially than we used to in the past. We understood how it all broke down, and we certainly saw a little bit more this year of seeing the NCAA using strength of schedule as an element where it seemed to be ignored a lot for regional record. Make your job easier when you're trying to figure out brackets?
Yeah. Anything that makes it more transparent, gives you more of an insight into what the selection committee is thinking. What, as Pat noted on the front page, what really makes the selection process in terms of when we do our projections harder or easier are upsets. Upsets actually make them easier because they put a bunch of teams at the at-large table that normally wouldn't be there, and they're going to gobble up those bids pretty fast. And in the last couple of years when we've done the women's projections, once you get down to the last 4 or 5 spots, you're looking at some teams that their records aren't sparkling. You probably weren't thinking of them from a tournament perspective, a week or 2 ago.
Right.
But their numbers look good enough to get in. And this year, with the lack of upsets, we actually hit that kind of buffer zone about 8 or 9 teams out of 21. So that, if to the extent you believe the numbers, and I think for women's basketball, I think the chances of first round blowouts are pretty good, and I think this year, perhaps because there's so many. Or perhaps because there's a handful of teams, 7 or 8 that are just head and shoulders seem to be above everybody else. I think you could see a lot of lopsided scores out of Amherst and Kane and Illinois Wesleyan and George Fox and Hope, and maybe I'm missing one other, but I think you could see a lot of double-digit margins until the third or maybe even the 4th game of the tournament.
Sure. Email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also join us on AOL IM. That is Hoopsville 2000 on your AOL IM. or join us on Twitter at D3 Hoopsville, or join us in the chat room just to the right of the screen. I know there's a number of people in there. I'm trying to monitor it, but we got enough going on. I know Pat Coleman is helping out in there as well, so if you have questions, we'll try and get them answered. Talking to Gordon Mann of D3Hoops.com, of course, our Midwest and West regional reporter as well. And Gordon, Midwest and West, I'm thinking of somebody else. Mid-Atlantic and Atlantic, and let me switch over to that, Pat, that area a little bit. At least on the women's side, this has been one of the most deep and talented Mid-Atlantic, Atlantic regions I have seen in a long time. And I'll venture to say, whoever comes out of this to get to the Final Four will have gone through a gauntlet.
Yeah, it's true, and the women's committee seems to be a little bit better in the latter rounds of mixing teams up. So you've got a better chance if you think. I'm just going to grab two teams at random. If you think Muhlenberg and Moravian are likely to come out of the first round, there seems to be almost as good a chance that they'll play Christopher Newport or Tufts in the next round, because the women's tournament jumbles them up once you get through the first weekend. The first weekend is very regional, and it's possible that the second weekend could be too, depending on what type of budget hit they've taken because of the economy. But generally speaking, once you get through that first weekend, you've got a chance to see teams from all over the place. I was at a regional last year that was Thomas More, George Fox, Oglethorpe, and Hope. And the year before that, it was Howard Payne, DeSales, George Fox, and Hope again.
Yeah.
So a lot of geographic disparity. Whoever comes at it, I think there's a lot of depth, but there's a lot of options.
Sure.
So I think I think for Moravian, you can protect them is the wrong word, but you could give them a bracket that has Moravian, we'll say DeSales, Newman, who won the Colonial, and Mount St. Mary's or something like that. It's not a bunch of teams they've played before. It recognizes, if you want to do that, the fact that Moravian is like a true number 1 seed or number 2 seed. And because of the proximity to the teams in the Atlantic, which is also very deep, with Kane and William Patterson and Marymount, because you have that kind of depth, you have a lot of different options there to mix it up. But whoever comes out will be battle tested. Mm-hmm. I don't think they'll be better than whoever comes out of the middle of the country, but they certainly won't have walked through to the Final Four.
Yeah, certainly. It'd be interesting to watch this region alone, and I'm almost a little jealous because I suspect you'll be getting a lot of those games as you prepare to head to the Shirk Center for the Final Four. So I know you'll get some excitement along the way. Let's switch over to the men real quick, because I know you've been following them, and DeSales was where you were at. I think it's a team not many people talk about, but a team that may be a little bit of a threat come the tourney time.
Yeah, they've got the experience of having played all the way through to the Elite Eight. They've got a player in Darnell Braswell who can carry them and can take over big games. I mean, Braswell is a really special player. I saw him. He did two things yesterday. Yesterday, he did not have a great shooting day. He finished with 27 points, but he was 11 for 27 from the field. He had two plays, though, that sort of spoke to his ability. He had a 1-on-4 where he was the one and drove in on the four guys and scored the layup and got the foul. And he had a play, and not a moment's hesitation. It was him going down the court. He knew exactly what he was going to do. And they had a possession late in the game where they were basically milking the clock, where he backed his man in, drew a double team, and then with his left hand dished it underneath his arm to a cutter who caught it and laid it up for two. I was thinking about whether is he a better player than Kyle Myrick, who was the player of the year for D3Hoops.com and played at Lincoln. And I think Braswell is he's definitely not as prolific a scorer, but he's probably a better all-around player in terms of defense and in terms of passing. He's a special player. I'm not sure DeSales has enough down low, and that's where they'll get hurt. Franklin and Marshall, they've got two young guys who are big but not fast, and they have a young guy who is fast but not big. And Misericordia was able to exploit that. Kings was able to exploit that, but they just didn't have enough guard play to balance it out. And eventually you're going to run into Franklin and Marshall, who's got enough guard play to balance that out. St. Mary's, who's primarily guard oriented.
Right.
You're gonna run into teams like that. William Patterson's got an excellent defense and got enough down low where they can frustrate you. I'm not sure they've got a deep run in them as much this year, but yeah, they're certainly not a team that will be walked over in the first or second round.
Certainly. Hey, Gordon, I appreciate you joining me on the line. I know you'll probably be in and out throughout the show, and I know you're busy at the same time, but I appreciate you joining me so far. Any early predictions that you want to throw out there for anybody who might be listening?
No, I think it'll be fun to see what comes out tomorrow morning on both sides. I think it was hard doing the women's the projections. I know I've heard it was just as hard to do the men's. So normally we miss 2 or 3, and I wouldn't be all that surprised if this year we missed a couple more. But we'll see.
Well, hey, if we could figure out and do it perfectly, what would be the point of having a committee? Well, actually, don't. Let's not go there. Hey, Gordon, appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
All right, take care, Dave.
All right, take care. Gordon Mann joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, and we appreciate it as always. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. That is hoopsville2000. Got a question from a Rutgers Newark fan. Wants to know if they fit into the Pool C bids. Apparently the kids at RNU are climbing off the wall wanting an answer. Basically, we are predicting at d3hoops.com they get in, but at the last minute. They will be one of the last few teams picked into the NCAA tournament. So that is going to be close. By the way, there is a bracket online you can go check out. You want to see how we think it all get bracketed out, at least for the men. I'm not sure if the women's is up just yet, but go online to d3hoops.com, or really on the page you are. Just down below the video screen is who's in. Here's our take, and that's the men's bracket. I know the women's will be coming out here soon as we're working to type that up and get it finished. Let's switch gears immediately and switch over to the Midwest region. Is Coach on the line, Chris? Is he there? Oh, no, he's not there. I'm sorry. He's calling in 5 minutes. So gives us a chance to answer some of your questions. So email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. I know there was a question about Carthage hosting. Right now we've got them not hosting, actually traveling the first weekend. But there's always a chance they could host. I know that's being answered in the chat room as we speak. There's always a chance they could host, but the projections we have at this point does not have them hosting. Let's remember a few things. Regional records rankings should come out at the end here. We should see the final ones. We're not 100% sure when, but we are told that the regional rankings, the final ones, will be released. So it'll give us an idea at least where some teams kind of fit into the whole enchilada and how they all fit together, and so on and so forth. Basically, Carthage is one of those teams that certainly is highly ranked, but they may be in a situation where they're going to travel anyway to Stevens Point, and that's the situation because Stevens Point is highly ranked and will get a hosting opportunity, winning the WIAC and probably being the #1 team in the West region, unless Whitworth gets the one, but it really doesn't matter. And so in that case, Carthage in Kenosha will probably travel to Stevens Point instead of Stevens Point traveling to Kenosha. But anything's possible. I kind of doubt it personally. Again, if you have any questions, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room, or join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. There's a number of people listening. I want to thank everybody so far. According to latest stats, 263 of you are listening right now, and over 3,000. Actually, that climbed again. Over 3,000 of you have listened, so we appreciate you tuning into the show. We certainly appreciate it. Hey, Chris. Sorry, folks, just handing the cell phone over to Chris. That's the fun job for him. We're going to be taking a break in a couple minutes when Chris returns, but if you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com, IM us at hoopsville2000, or D3Hoopsville on the Twitter, or, of course, there's the chat room. I know there's a lot of people with a lot of questions, and so please don't be afraid to ask them, and we'll try and get you our answers. Again, Remember, it's more than just one factor that gets into this, and a lot of people asked, what about this and what about that and what about this and what about that. Regional record matters, strength of schedule matters, head-to-head matters as a criteria. Remember, a lot of these things matter equally, so it's not like your strength of schedule is great, so let's forget the fact that you lost a third of your basketball games. Your strength of schedule might stink, and so let's forget that when you won all but 3 of your games. So there's always these factors you have to figure out in between. And that is something that the committee is doing as we speak. Really, they're selecting the teams now, and will eventually, go out there and get the brackets put together. Question in the email: do you think Eastern Mennonite will go far in this tournament? What seed will they host? Well, for starters, remember there's really no seeding in Division III. We'll explain that in a little bit because of geographics. There is no real seeding. Will they host? We are projecting they will host. Yes, and probably teams like Wilmington out of Ohio, maybe I'm trying to think, Center out of Kentucky, and others. So Eastern Mennonite could very well host. How far will they go? I'm not going to be surprised if they're in the second weekend, depending on who they got to be faced up against. Remember, that's the big challenge. If they get an easy second weekend, then they could easily be at the Final Four. But if they get a challenge, they got to go through Guilford again, or they got to go through maybe some of the Midwest teams to get there. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. Question about 4 ODAC teams getting in. Yes, I think 4 ODAC teams will get in. Does Guilford, Williams, and WashU get byes? Whitworth's getting 1 bye. You can put money on that, and it's all about geography. So Whitworth is one of those byes. Then it's Guilford, Williams, and WashU. I think you're forgetting William Patterson in that mix. Guilford could get the bye. I think Williams getting a bye might be tricky strictly because of the teams around them. WashU's the same situation, but with a chance. I'm not really sure who the rest of them will be. So we'll see. Worcester's chances. Andrew is a student from Worcester. What are the Scots' chances of hosting the opening weekend after winning their conference tournament? I like their chances at hosting. Pat Coleman does not, and that's difference of opinion, and that really is where the committee gets into it. But I think there's he says decent chance. I think they got a very good chance. I think it's going to come down to them or John Carroll. And in that case, John Carroll has the win against them head-to-head, and that might be the trip for Worcester. But Worcester did win and John Carroll did lose, so there's always a chance that Worcester does host. I think they got a pretty good chance, but I think it's going to be them or John Carroll. I don't think it's going to be either one in between. Got another email here on the East region. Sorry, I'm having trouble calling it up here. You have Plattsburgh State hosting a bracket with St. John Fisher. Fisher is ranked first in the region and Plattsburgh second. Why wouldn't both Fisher and Plattsburgh host? You forgot St. John Fisher lost, and that will make Fisher fall behind Plattsburgh in the hosting opportunity. So that would give Plattsburgh the leg up. Second of all, due to proximity, it makes no sense for them to host both schools, and it's going to be difficult to get to both schools. So really, in my opinion, that makes sense. I think Plattsburgh does host, and I think Fisher is going to be traveling, mainly because they lost. Another question, Dean Corwin at Scranton. Hey, how are you, Dean? I did miss you, Goucher. Sorry we didn't get a chance to see you. Good question for Gordon, but we'll try and answer it. Just wondering on the women's side, was wondering if Mid-Atlantic team would get shipped out of region just because of the strength of the region. Yeah, I think it's very possible that a Mid-Atlantic team could get shipped out. The Mid-Atlantic and Atlantic combined, I mean, it's easy to actually ship a Mid-Atlantic out of the region. They could slide them down to the Atlantic and go to Marymount, or even go down to Roanoke maybe. I think it's very easy to send a Mid-Atlantic team out of here, and I think on the women's side you're going to see it. Who it is and who it isn't, I don't know. It could be coming from the northern side or the southern side. I think it's a very good chance. Pat says he hasn't posted yet, but Pat does have 2 Mid-Atlantic teams in the Christopher Newport bracket for now. So that's 2 teams heading to Virginia Beach. Very simple trip. It could have been. I don't know who Pat has, but I could tell you. Muhlenberg, McDaniel. Easily would fit into that trip. So that isn't that hard. Messiah McDaniel is who he had. So Dean, a very good chance that'll happen. Very, very good chance that will happen. Hey, going to take a very quick break because we need to keep our wits about us for the rest of this show. We do have Coach Mike McGrath calling in just a minute or two, so join us there. If you want, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. There's a ton of people in the chat room, so please don't hesitate to get in there. You can also IM us, as we mentioned, and join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. One quick IM as we go to break. What would the Southern bracket look like in the women's tournament? Considering the Southern, what do you mean by Southern bracket? If you're talking South region, it's going to get split, and one side's going to be on the east side, and one side's going to be on the west. So give me some more details on what you mean by the Southern bracket, and we'll go from there. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and broadcasting thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back, right after this.
Amber alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old, suspect wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued, you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberAlerts.org. Think of it, something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody.
wirelessamberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Effort, drive, and determination build champions. Be there March 19th through 20th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia for the 2010 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, hosted by Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. For tickets, call 540-375-3004 or log on to ncaa.com/tickets.
Ever wonder where you can hear the latest Division III basketball news?
Welcome to the big show.
That's Hoopsville.
Great show.
The only show dedicated to Division III basketball in the world.
I'll tell you what, I'll support them.
You can tune in to where coaches, players, fans, and even us commentators chat about the week that was and the week that will be. So tune into Hoopsville Sunday nights from 7 until 9 Eastern live on your computer. Or check out the podcast. Because if you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Hoopsville is presented by D3Hoops.com and broadcast thanks to Counter College Radio. For more information, go to www.d3hoops.com/Hoopsville.
Who are you?
Who can make you cheer?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
NCAA basketball. Who's your team? NCAA Women's College Basketball. All day, every day, our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day, our game. NCAA Women's College Basketball.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Chris, you forgot a saying. Chris?
I know. A little busy with the calls.
That's a likely excuse. No, I'm kidding. Hey, you can change it while we're teasing here.
I'll get something there.
Hey, if you've got questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us on Twitter at d3hoopsville, or join us in the chat room. I know that thing is buzzing. Lots of questions getting answered in there, so please don't hesitate. By the way, a couple quick questions before we get to our caller. Question was, if there's no seeds, how do you choose who will host the second weekend? Is it based on rankings? Yeah, it's technically based on regional rankings. It's also based on geographic situations, and it's based on who's got the best facilities. And so, really, they're already looking at who's possibly going to be hosting the second weekend now. And so when they're putting these brackets together, basically to keep anybody from flying. But whoever ends up winning, they're going to have an idea of who they want to host. And when the brackets come out tomorrow, we're going to have an idea of who could host, strictly by how the brackets put together. They're not going to change the bracket completely before the second weekend. So, that's how it works. No, there's no seeding, and the reason there's no seeding is because not technically will a 1 play a 16 in Division 3 because of geographics. And it happens often, so don't be surprised by that. Okay, let me get a couple IMs in here. East Coast guy wants to know what I think about more than one team coming out of the NJAC. I think Pat is predicting 2. I'm nervous at 2. I don't know if Richard Stockton makes it, but they might. Also, what do you think of the William Patterson as a team? Can they host a possible Final Four? Of course, they won't be hosting a Final Four. They could go to a Final Four. They're a very good team. So we'll see what happens. I'm just a little nervous of them getting 2 in. I think they can host the second weekend possibly as well. Another question, does MIT have a real chance of hosting despite their loss yesterday? The bracket on D3 Hoops has them hosting. Yeah, they've got a real chance at hosting. They really do. It really depends on who gets in. There's a ton of teams up in the Northeast, and I think Williams and MIT are your 2 favorites to host up there. So I can't disagree with that mentality whatsoever. On the women's side, that Southern bracket women's tournament, the question followed up. They were talking about Louisiana College. I'm sorry. Gordon says, by the way, we're projecting 3 NJAC teams in. I didn't help with the projections because I had enough to do to get ready for the show. I'm nervous about seeing 3 NJAC teams in there. And, Rutgers Newark. That's right. You know what? You did predict Rutgers Newark. So, yeah, I'm just nervous about Stockton personally. Middlebury also has a chance to host. Louisiana College, Roanoke, Maryville, Washington Lee, Christopher Newport, where do they all go? Well, Christopher Newport's hosting in our projections, and we have Louisiana College heading in that direction, which means a flight. I'm wondering if Pat's got Roanoke heading there as well after their loss. Yep, he's got Roanoke heading to Christopher Newport. So that's our projection. Maryville and Washington Lee. Washington Lee's in a great position where they can head into the anywhere almost. And Pat's got him heading to Moravian, and he's got Maryville heading to Thomas More. So there's your answers to that. Hey, let's not waste any more time because I know our caller's been sitting on the line patiently. And Coach McGrath from Chicago joins us. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing well, as always. Long time no chat, but I assume everything is hunky-dory for you.
Yeah, things are good. It's good to catch up with you, and it's been another fun year, and I'm excited about the tournament upcoming. Not as excited as I am when my team's involved, but as every year, it should be some really good basketball here coming up, and I'm excited about that.
Sure. Obviously, we'll get to your team in just a minute. The main reason we had you on is because I wanted to talk about kind of something new in Salem this year that might have a lot of people interested in coming, strictly because they may get a chance to see a lot of good basketball, and that's what is being replaced of the consolation game by the National Association of Basketball Coaches All-Star Game. You and I talked about this, I think it was last year, or on the Sunday, I think, as we headed out of Roanoke, and I thought it was a terrific idea. I never thought you guys could have pulled it off over the summer.
I don't know that anybody pulled anything off, but really what happened, Dave, is just a lot of stars lined up, and no pun intended, but a lot of things lined up to make this make a lot of sense. The first thing is there was, and there's some disagreement about this, but there was some notion out there amongst coaches and amongst institutions that, we were the only sport hosting a consolation game at this point, men's and women's Division III basketball, and there was some notion that it just didn't make sense. And some of that grew out of the women's side a little more than the men's side a couple years ago, as for media coverage reasons, their consolation game was at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So you had a team playing, getting done with the game, the biggest game of their careers at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and they had to bounce back and play a consolation game at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And it was kind of, now some people really like it. I know Mark Edwards at WashU felt that, winning a consolation game 3 years ago had a lot to do with them kind of moving forward, and it was a good experience. But for the most part, people were kind of down on it. So then we had a year where it was our turn to have the third place game, or the consolation game, be played at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And so some of the people who were on the NCAA basketball committee, Mike Sapolsky and Pat Cunningham and Charlie Brock and some others, kind of said, hey, is two things. Is there a way to improve our championship and the event, and is there a way to do that creates more enthusiasm and excitement for both Division III basketball and our championship. And, those things came together. The NCAA got behind it. The NABC got behind it. And we formulated the concept of the Division III All-Star Game.
And certainly an interesting opportunity. It's all seniors for starters. This is a senior opportunity, which I think is great. Doesn't take anything away from some guys who've been playing for 4 years, and those guys who might be juniors or sophomores who could make an all-star game will get their chance their senior years.
Well, and Dave, just so you know, there's NCAA rules that prohibit it being anything that anybody than somebody who hasn't eliminated their eligibility. You couldn't host a game. You couldn't provide the transportation that we're going to provide and the per diem that we're going to provide and some of that stuff for somebody who still had remaining college eligibility. That's why it's senior only.
And that helps.
Yeah. They made it simple on us.
And so you had everybody nominate. Now, all the nominations have been completed, so that process is finished. And I know you've told me you guys will now start looking at the next step of this All-Star game, and that's selecting players, or at least whittling your team down, your selections down a little bit. How much will the NCAA tournament play a factor?
Well, it's the biggest wild card that we have to deal with. Basically, just so you know, so the NCAA basketball committee, the committee that's in charge of choosing the teams that are involved in the NCAA tournament, went to the NCAA and said, hey, are you okay with us doing this? And then Charlie Brock from Springfield College and Paige Moyer from Roanoke, who are on the NABC board of the directors, went to the board and said, hey, will you fund this? And the NABC decided to sponsor it and very, very graciously put forth the finances that it will take to run a very classy all-star game. And then they asked me to serve as the chair of the nominating committee, and I have a member on my committee in each of the 8 regions.
Let me guess, by the way, it was because you came up with the idea. They rewarded you with the committee chair. Coach, good luck.
Dave, I don't know about that. I've been engaged in this, and they asked me to help. I don't know that it was my idea. I don't want to take credit for that. When the 10 or 12 of us are sitting around watching games on TV and jibber-jabber, and I'm not sure who actually is the one that could take credit for it, so I don't want to do it, but it could have been any one of us at any given time.
Sure.
But the idea was out there. They asked me to do this. And so what we've done over the course of the years, we've asked coaches in their regions to nominate one of their own players. You can't nominate somebody from another team. You're in charge of nominating one of your own players.
Okay.
And the committee representative in each region is going to review those, and we're going to whittle it down to a couple. And to start with, we're not going to make participation in the NCAA tournament. We're going to try to pick the best 2 players from each region.
Got it.
Our goal is twofold. One, we want this event to be something that really shows how good of basketball players there are at Division III and what a good product there is here. As I explained to somebody the other day when I was talking about it, what I would like to see happen is I'd like to see somebody whose nephew is playing in the Final Four for somebody and drives down to Salem, and he's going to watch his first Division III basketball games because his nephew's in the Final Four, and he watches the Division III All-Star game. I want him to watch that and say, wow, those are some really good players.
Yeah.
And so we want to put the best players and the most deserving players we can out there. And, we want to do so in a manner that's fair and, does the best job of picking the most. And it's going to be really challenging. There's so many good players out there, so many deserving players. And, those names are going to be out there, and we're trying to pick the top 2 from each region. Position's not going to matter. Size isn't going to matter. We're trying to find the best 2 players from each region. As you mentioned, the teams that are in the NCAA tournament, which I'd imagine are going to be most often, the best players in each region, quite often their teams are going to be in the tournament.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have a process by which we're going to slowly filter and make travel arrangements for the people who, as they get eliminated or as they're not in the tournament. And then, let's say the best player from one region, his team makes the Final Four, then we're going to move down to some alternate selections in that region.
Sure. Now, a question everybody wants to know is when this will all be announced. Obviously, because of the NCAA tournament, there's going to be some factors there, but when is the expected announcement?
I would say the official team will be announced publicly. That release will probably come out the Tuesday or the Wednesday of the championship week.
Okay.
I think that Monday after the Elite Eight games are played on Saturday, I think that Monday we're gonna, because I think there's going to be some kids. There's a chance that some kids who've been chosen to participate at the last minute, they might lose in the Elite Eight, and they may be hesitant to, go down there. Maybe they're not up for it. They're a little down that their team lost or something like that. I think we're going to need that day Monday to finalize those last couple spots in a couple regions.
Sure. Any plans to have the game video streamed?
I believe both D3 Hoops and the ODAC are planning on doing that at this point.
Yeah, I threw the softball knowing the answer. I just wanted to have you say it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be out there. I got a note into Pat. He's been pretty busy, but he and I plan on touching base here hopefully pretty soon and following up on that. And one added thing that I want to add, one neat thing that we were able to do as a part of this is the coaches of the 2 All-Star games. And I should mention, it's not going to be an east-west, north-south kind of concept. We're going to pair up the teams with no regard to region, other than we're going to have the 2 participants from a particular region are each going to be on the same team. So you could have 2 guys from the West on one team. You could have 2 guys from the Midwest on the other team. That's where we're going to start to look at position a little bit and try to provide some balance.
Gotcha. Well, that makes some sense.
Yeah, so we'll do that kind of that last week also. And then the coaches of the teams are going to be past and present winners of the NABC Division III Distinguished Service Award.
Oh, cool.
Who are Division III coaches who, over an extended period of time, have gone above and beyond in what they've contributed to their schools and to our game. And it's a neat opportunity for us to take another step. As you're well aware, we've honored them over the years, and I think this is a way to kind of give a little more notoriety to what they've contributed to the games. And I'm not at liberty to say who those are going to be this year. But
oh, come on.
They're very very distinguished people and good representatives, and it'll be neat for them to have a moment here also.
Oh, very cool. Hey, let me switch gears on you real quick. Obviously, you're in the Midwest region and with the Chicago team and in the UAA, so I'd love to get your opinions on a couple teams real quick. And obviously, let's start with WashU, the 2-time defending champs, number 1 team in the country, first team to punch their ticket. What are your thoughts? You played them yesterday to a tight game.
Yeah, it was a good game. Unfortunately, and I'm not sure that this would have made a difference in the final outcome, but we had to play without our leading scorer. But we battled them tough. Our games always tend to be tough battles, very physical. We tend to know each other. They've been great games over the years. I think Wash has a great team. Their experience level, especially on the perimeter, is phenomenal. Sean Wallace, yesterday Sean was 0 for 9 from the floor with as many turnovers as he had assists. And with a 3-point game and a minute to go, he drains a 3. It's hard for me to say this because one of my former players I thought was the best point guard our league has seen, but Sean has proven to be that. He's the best point guard in the history of the UAA, and he's very accomplished and a great leader and a great player. And you surround him with Aaron Thompson, who's just such a good scorer, and Cameron Smith, who's such a good defender. And those are guys who've been there. Zach Kelly, and they've been there. And 2 years ago when we won the league in the last regular season game and they went on to win the national championship, I was surprised. Last year when they won the national championship without Troy Roos, I was surprised. And, now they're playing without Tyler Nading, and you know what? I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, no, true.
They're really good, and they're experienced, and they can make a great run here. Midwest,
not down, I don't want to put it that way, but certainly other regions are up. Your vantage point on how the Midwest is shaped up this year?
My sense is there's kind of been a leveling off. I think this is true of the UAA too. Parity is a word that's been being floated around Division I men's basketball for a few years now. And
yeah.
I think in the Midwest we've seen that a little bit. I think the teams that traditionally had been more towards the bottom are getting much, much better.
Yeah.
And I think the teams that have been traditionally at the top or at the top maybe aren't quite as dominant as they once had been. I think you're seeing a lot of parity in Division III men's basketball. There's a lot of good coaches out there. There's a lot of good players choosing a lot of great schools. And, I think this year, I was just doing the math in my head, I think we're going to have played 6 teams that are likely to be in the NCAA tournament. We're going to have played 8 of our 25 games against teams in the tournament. And, St. Norbert's, Carleton.
Yeah.
I suspect we'll see Illinois Wesleyan in there and Brandeis and WashU. And there's a lot of really good basketball to be played out there, and I'll be really curious to see how it goes here down the stretch.
Hey, very good. Hey, Coach, I appreciate it, as always, joining us on the program. Love this NABC All-Star game. One question that did come up real quick was, if the Jostens Award winner happens to be a senior and he's not on the roster, was there any thought of letting him play since he'll be in town anyway?
The suspicion is going to be that, and we've discussed this, we're going to choose who we think are the best. the suspicion is likely if the Jostens winner is a senior that I'd be surprised if he wasn't one of those two players from the region. We're kind of working under that assumption, and we're going to communicate with the people in Salem. And I should mention, Kerry Harvey Cutter and the people in Salem have really made this just an easy thing for us to get organized and run with. The support's just unbelievable. And we're going to communicate with the people about the Jostens winner. And my suspicion is when we're crossing our list, that person would be one of the top two if he is a senior. If he's not, we'll kind of reanalyze that.
Sure, makes sense to me. Yeah, awesome.
But we definitely want. I mean, the point being is we do want to pick the best players. And while the Jostens, we talked about this. Academics, while a big part of Division III basketball, is not a factor in our decision. Team success is not necessarily a major factor in our decision. We're trying to pick the best players, and the Jostens Award, which I was lucky enough to go down there a few years ago when Derek Reich won, it obviously takes in a lot of other factors. And there's a chance they wouldn't overlap, but my suspicion is that it likely will.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool. But, a lot of work in between now and then. You guys have gotten a lot of work done, so I'm impressed.
And we're hopeful. The big thing, Dave, and I've been a big proponent of this over the years. Is, I've been a head coach at Chicago. This will be my 11th year, and this will be my 11th trip down to Salem. And it's just an unbelievably good weekend. My friends and I, we joke about it. Not a day goes by that we don't think about the Division III Final Four and going down to it. When we win, we hope our team's going to be there. When we lose, we can't wait for the season to be over and head down there. It's a great time. And we're hopeful that by getting 16 kids participating in an all-star game that their coaches, their family, those people will come down and see how much fun you can have down in Salem and Roanoke for a weekend and see some great basketball.
Oh, exactly. I agree entirely with you. I'm looking forward to my 10th year down there, so looking forward to seeing you as well, and really looking forward to that All-Star game, even if it is 10 a.m., but we would have been up anyway for that game, so it doesn't matter. But great addition to the weekend, and looking forward to it, and we'll certainly talk to you when we're all down in Salem.
Thanks, Dave. If you have any questions on anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Will do. Thanks, Coach.
Take care.
Coach Mike McGrath joining us here on Hoopsville. Appreciate him doing that. Got a lot of questions from people. I'm going to answer a couple quick ones, and then I'm going to take a break, and then Anderson's head coach is coming on the air here momentarily. First off, the questions about bids. Just remember, I don't want to steer you away from the show in any way, but if you right-click on projections on the men's side of things and on the women's side, we'll get you a lot of the answers you're probably looking for when it comes to who's in and who's out. I know I got the men's one on the front page. I believe the women's one is being finished and should be going to the page soon. So don't be, just keep refreshing that page and make sure you don't lose us, though. We want to make sure we answer your questions. Again, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. That is hoopsville2000. Or join us in the chat room to the right of your screen. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. Question about John Carroll. Got a lot of questions about John Carroll. What do you think they're going to play? Pat Coleman has predicted they're going to be at home. I think they're going to be at Worcester. It's really a 50-50. I think they can be at either location. I don't think it's not like it's a huge difference between that decision. I think it's a 50-50 chance as to where they'll be on there. So let me try to answer other questions. I know there's a ton of people trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to get to my email. Sorry. Where do you have Hope women going to see hosting for a while, and who do you see in the bracket? Again, women's bracket coming out soon. I'll try and answer the Hope question as soon as I get the opportunity. Thought there was another question. Here it is. Predictions Norwich makes it to the NCAA? I don't think there's a good chance Norwich makes it. I'm saying that out of without the info in front of me, unfortunately, because I don't have the projected bracket for the men's side just yet. I'm working on that as we speak. I think I've got a way to cheat and get around it, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll hopefully have it on there. Hope hosts, in our opinion, yes, and no on Norwich. There's your answers. Hope will host on the women's side, we say, and no on Norwich. So email us your questions. Email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. You can also join us in the chat room or join us on AOL-IM at Hoopsville2000. I'm going to take a very quick break and then get back at it. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and broadcasting thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back after this.
Daddy, I'm only 3 years old, but when you look at me, I could see the wheels turning. You're dreaming about what am I going to be when I grow up? A Major League First baseman? Maybe a point guard for a national championship team? Or the winner of the Heisman Trophy?
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete? 1 in 16,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Dad, let's keep dreaming the impossible while looking out for the possible, okay?
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Did you know there's only one radio show dedicated to Division III basketball in the world?
Welcome to the big show.
It's Hoopsville. It's the blood of a champ. You can tune into Hoopsville throughout the season on Sunday and Thursday nights starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, live on your computer. Just go to www.d3hoopsville.com for more information, because if you're a Division III basketball fan, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Hoopsville is presented thanks to d3hoops.com and in part by the National Association of Basketball Coaches.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Did you know Division III basketball has a radio show completely dedicated to them every week?
Welcome to the big show.
Well, they do. You can tune into Hoopsville every Sunday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, live on your computer.
Great show.
Just go to d3hoops.com and click on the Hoopsville link for more information. Because if you're a Division III basketball fan, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Hoopsville is presented thanks to Goucher College Radio and d3hoops.com.
Well, not really. It's an old commercial that I still never changed. I promise in the off-season I'll be changing those. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Appreciate everybody joining us here in the 4-hour special. We're in, geez, Chris, can you believe we're already an hour and 45 into this? Chris has got some sayings on the board. Chris, your head's covering some of that, so we shall have more medals USA.
We still have more medals USA.
Very nice. The shot at Canada. I think we just broke a record, by the way, for the most medals in an Olympics. If you got any questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us in the chat room as well, or join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. Question on an IM. Bowden or Tufts? Bowden or Tufts? I think we projected both in. Hold on a minute. I've got the projection here. I just got to call it up in front of me. Both in. And back-to-back. Pick 11 and 12, in our opinion. Bowden and Tufts women getting in. Email us again at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us in the chat room. Lots of things. Another question about Ithaca. What are the odds Ithaca makes it into the field? Men or women? I'm only saying that because I'm a little punchy, and so I might not be able to think everything through in my head very quickly to remember who you may be referring to. If it's men or women. Women, we got them projected at third in on, and I think men, they already are in, but I'm not positive. So, yeah, women are in is the answer. Talking about that bubble, it certainly gets a little bit more strained as teams go on. And tonight we're going to hopefully talk to a few coaches who may be on that bubble. One of them is Anderson, and Coach Tom Slider joins us here on the show. Coach, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
We talked to you a few weeks back, and you guys were playing pretty well. Had only lost, I think, 2 games at that point in time, and you were on the roll. Things have certainly gotten a little more challenging. 3 losses in the last 5 games. Now playing the roulette game that is Pool C. How comfortable do you feel?
Maybe you should tell me how comfortable I feel.
Well, I can. Give me a minute. I'll at least let you know how we feel about it.
Well, I think I already have heard.
Yeah, we have you as the last Pool C team in.
Yeah, I know. And then I heard Mary Hardin Baylor beat was it UT Dallas, and so I don't know if that should cause me to have greater concern or not. So,
well, hold on. I can tell you if we at least had them coming in before all that happened, and I am quickly looking, and we didn't. So that might burst the bubble, as it were. Yeah. So now, in our minds, you're technically out. Which, by the way, Coach, means nothing, because if we get all 61 teams in, Coach, then we're going to be the new NCAA committee.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I was hoping that you were wrong. I was actually hoping when you had us in that you were wrong, that we were actually in a little quicker than that. But that's optimism on our end,
No, certainly. No, I understand that. Obviously a lot to deal with. What happened would be the basic question. 3 losses out of the last 5, including in the conference tournament. What happened to the team, or was it just a matter of you guys ran out a little gas, maybe?
I don't think it has anything to do with that. We play a team that's won 9 straight games to end the last regular season game at Hanover, which was the number 2 seed in our league. And I'm not going to say. I'm going to say exactly what happened. We finished the game immediately. The game's over. Their head coach says, "You just got that game taken away from you," and 3 people at their scorers table did. So that would have been win 22 for us, and then we win the semifinal game in our conference tournament. We'd be at 23, and I was led to believe that probably 23 secures your spot in. So, if anybody wants to start playing the game, what happened at the end, we lost a team in Defiance that's won 23 games. They're a ranked team. We can play them 10 times and probably split with them. The game went down to the wire last night, other than the final score was 5 points.
Right.
We've won 6 of our last 10. We've won, I don't know, do the math, when you're 22-5, and our first loss was November 28th, so we're, 18 of our last 20, whatever. So Illinois Wesleyan's sitting there at 1-6 of our last, they're 6-4 over their last 10 games as well. So, you can start splitting hairs that way, but I don't know that a lot changed. We had one of our starters out for 2 weeks, but we did go 3-1 without him.
Right
there at the end. So that was one of our losses without him, and we were just getting him back. He had a concussion. So, it's just it's called playing 27 games against good competition. People would argue that, but our league's better than people think.
Yeah, it certainly was an interesting finish. Talk to me about the game. You say everyone said you guys got stolen from you. Can you go in a little more detail?
Well, there was we had 2 chances at point blank range. We got one on video where the guy just hammered the guy in the head, and there was no call. The referee didn't make the call at the end, and we ended up losing in overtime at Hanover. So
right.
It was the game I'm referring to. So,
okay.
And fortunately, we had wrapped the conference championship up to host the Wednesday night before. Had we lost that Wednesday night before, we'd have been on the road, and that would have cost us the opportunity to host and the number 1 seed in the tournament. But we had wrapped that up, so really that game supposedly was meaningless. Other than for us, we knew it meant a lot as far as getting into the NCAA tournament in case we didn't get it done, and as it turns out, we didn't get it done last night, so here we are in the proverbial bubble.
Yeah, the proverbial bubble is always comfortable to sit in. I got a question on IM. Looking back in non-conference, how big did you know way back then how big the game against Augustana would be, or maybe that loss would be, how it may have kept them ranked below Illinois Wesleyan and Wheaton a little bit? Or you ranked, I should say?
No, I don't think at the time we played them it did at all. I mean, they were undefeated at the time, and we played them well. We were I guess we were both undefeated at the time when we played.
I think you were, yeah.
And then if anything, it probably helped Augustana's chances of getting ranked as opposed to us being behind Illinois Wesleyan and Wheaton, because I have a totally different opinion on why we're behind Wheaton and Illinois Wesleyan. So I would say the fact that Augustana beat us and then we reeled off 14 straight after that is the reason they were still in the 8th spot of the regional rankings.
I mean, obviously, you could still make the tournament at this point in time. You need to prepare for that, I assume. And based on the rankings tomorrow, what have you told your team? What have you done to prepare them?
Well, this is new territory for us. The last team at Anderson University that played in the national tournament was 1960-61. And that was back when we were NAIA, and that was even before I was born, Dave. So
okay.
So typically, and this year was the first year that our program won a conference championship during the regular season since the 1981-82 season. So, and that was before I was a student at Anderson University. So there's a lot of new things happen. So how did I handle it? It was kind of difficult in terms of knowing how. We were a little stunned, number one. We didn't anticipate we would lose the conference tournament title. And so you're kind of sitting there, do you bring closure to the season or not, when you know there still might be a chance you get in. And yet you also know, I don't know if you use the word politics or just tradition-rich programs that have been in before and may pull a little more weight, and you know that maybe the chances are a long shot that you're going to get in. So, it's a little difficult. We only have 2 seniors on the team, and so we're going to return our top, 6 guys back next year, but it's something that we've never had to kind of deal with, and usually when the season's over, it's been over, and you bring closure to it, and you get ready to move on.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Certainly the regional rankings have a lot to do with wins and losses, and they also have to do with strength of schedule. Looking at the SOS numbers recently on D3Hoops.com, your strength of schedule is 474, which puts you 323rd in the country. I know schedules are 2 months in advance. How much, or 2 months, I'm still off, 2 years in advance. How much do you think changing your schedule, maybe making it even tougher? And I know some factors are outside of your ability to control, but how much of that might help or change in the future if Anderson's in the same situation or trying to avoid being in the same situation?
Well, I guess I would tell you, here's what we did. We played Wash U last year, and we played Wisconsin-Platteville last year, and we played Elmhurst last year.
Mm-hmm.
This year we played UW-Platteville. We played Augustana, which I felt would be a top 25 team in the country. And we played Wittenberg, which is the winningest D3 program in the country. Next year we're scheduled to play, at least I'm assuming, we're going to be paired up to play Richard Stockton the very first game out in the Tournament of Heroes, and we have to return to Augustana next year. I have called Illinois Wesleyan, Hope, Calvin, Carthage, Wash U. None of those people will play me next year, and I actually have people that are so-called the teams that I may be penalized with that aren't very good, if you will, are dropping me. So right now, I'm having a hard time scheduling people because they're looking at you with 22 wins, and so I got the so-called best of the best that won't play me, and I have the worst of the worst that won't play me. And our league is going to be really good next year. It's very underclassmen dominated. And so I don't know that we'd change the schedule. I don't know that you or I could have said that Wisconsin-Platteville would have ended up 14-11. That when we went on the road to play Wisconsin-Platteville.
But Coach, Platteville's an out-of-region game.
Well, I know, but I think anytime you play a program that's good, if you get to the table, the secondary criteria.
But the secondary criteria, it's still regional. And Richard Stockton's the situation the same in that game next season. As great as it is to play them, and trust me, I'm all for seeing you guys play different teams and playing. But I also realize the in-region ramifications. There's one team asking me on the women's side. They beat this team, they've got a good regional record, but non-regional overall record, I should say. I'm sorry, but 3 of their games didn't even count. And you say that the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference will be better, and I hope for you guys' sake it will be. Is there worry that the conference may be your biggest Achilles heel at this point in time? You got teams like Franklin at 8-18, Mount St. Joe at 10-14. Rolls-Holman at 7-18, 2-23 for Bluffton. It's just you and Defiance who have any record worth mentioning.
Well, in Manchester was 17-10, who got beat by Illinois Wesleyan from a half-court buzzer beater. But I think that's exactly the case this year with our strength of schedule, Dave, is that the bottom feeders in our league, if that's what you want to term it, were not as good as they've been. Bluffton has 2 wins. Rose-Holman has 6 wins. That hasn't happened in the past. Go back and look.
Right.
And so who would have known that would be the case? And I don't think it will be the case next year. What I have always been told is play as many games as you possibly can against Division III opponents. We played 25 in-region games out of 20. We played.
I was going to say 25 is your max.
Well, I mean, when you start figuring conference tournament,
right.
I think our in-region record is 20-5. I think.
I was going to double check it for you.
It might be 19-5 because we played Howard Payne, which out of region, Wisconsin-Platteville, which out of region, and
20-5 is your regional record.
Yeah, so that's 20-5 is our in-region record.
Right.
So we played 27 games. Not a lot of people have played more in-region games than that. There's a few, but not too many. I mean, and so I guess when you start looking at that would kind of be, if anybody would ask me what your argument is, I mean, you got teams that are being considered right now in the NCAA tournament that have played, some of them played 5 games against NAIA schools that don't count, and a non-affiliated school on their schedule, and so their in-region record may only have 3 or 4 in-region losses, but they played 6 or 7 less in-region games. So where does the number of total wins against D3 people add to you, and when does it not? Or does it depend on which school you're talking about?
Well, it is a secondary factor, the overall record, and so who you face. But of course, you got to get off the first primary factor first, and that's where the regional record comes into play. And sure, there's teams that have the NAIA schedule, certainly, and there's some teams who don't have many choices there too. And I see both sides of it. I see your side of it too, and I understand that scheduling is 2 years in advance, and that makes it an even bigger challenge too, because you don't know, when you book an Augustana, if in 2 years they will be as good as they normally are.
Well, you have a pretty good idea. I mean, for us. Now, if people are playing us right now, they know we should be pretty good next year, but the following year we could really drop off, maybe. Okay, you tell me that WashU's going to drop off that much, Illinois Wesleyan's going to drop off that much. No, most of those aren't going to drop off that much. So it's a pretty safe bet. When we schedule them, they're going to be decent. I mean, when we scheduled Elmhurst, we knew Brent Rooks would be there for 2 years. When we played Platteville, anytime we go to the WIAC, and again, that's an out-of-region game for us, but you're going to play a WIAC school, WIAC, whatever you want to call it, it's probably going to be a pretty good opponent.
Sure.
So that's kind of the thought. But, for us, the scheduling is about a year and a half out, maybe a year. I mean, like right now, I'm scrambling to get 2 games next year because nobody will play us.
Well, I'm sure if it gets down to that, and that makes it certainly very difficult for many coaches. I almost wish that scheduling wasn't that far out, but I know with contracts it makes it a challenge. But hey, Coach, I'm running out of time. I appreciate your candor, and thanks for chatting on the show here tonight. Again, our projections have you right in that last pick, non-last pick, situation. Doesn't mean the NCAA sees it the same way we do. So good luck on that bubble, and obviously by about 11 o'clock, 10:30 tomorrow, I should say, or Eastern time, you'll have an answer.
Well, either way, Dave, you're going to hear me yelling from Anderson, Indiana, all right?
Just depends on what you're yelling, right?
That's right.
Very good. Hey, Coach Slider, appreciate you coming on. Certainly appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Hey, I appreciate it very much.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Coach Tom Slider joining us here on Hoopsville. He brings up some interesting points. Of course, the one thing we've always said on this show for a number of years is you got to win your games November 15th all the way through February 28th this season, and he got himself. That team did get themselves in a little bit of trouble with losses to Transylvania and Hanover late, games that they maybe should have won easily. Transylvania 14-12 and Hanover 15-10 overall, but you never know. They may get in the NCAA tournament, but it was good to chat with them nonetheless. We're going to take a very quick break, and on the other side, ODAC Commissioner Brad Bankston will be joining us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. During the break, email us at Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. IM us at Hoopsville 2000. Join us at Twitter at D3Hoopsville, or join us in the chat room, which I'm sorry, I wasn't even able to watch that during that interview. I'll try and do that better. If you have questions, that's how you get a hold of us. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
All season long, let D3Football.com be your home for all the Division III football action on the road to the Stag Bowl. From interactive blogs and message boards to columns from around the region and around the nation on your favorite teams, nobody covers NCAA Division III better than D3Football.com. As the playoffs approach, get the scoop on who's in and who's out from the experts who picked all 32 teams last year. Don't go anywhere else. Get the info from the source for Division III football at www.D3Football.com.
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA embossed, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays?
Yes. Yes.
Effort, drive, and determination build champions. Be there March 19th through 20th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia for the 2010 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, hosted by Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. For tickets, call 540-375-3004 or log on to ncaa.com/tickets.
Amber Alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old, suspect wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued, you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelesamberalerts.org. Think of it, something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody.
wirelesamberalerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Ever wonder where you can hear the latest Division III basketball news?
Welcome to the big show.
That's Hoopsville.
Great show.
The only show dedicated to Division III basketball in the world.
I'll tell you what, I'll support them.
You can tune in to where coaches, players, fans, and even us commentators chat about the week that was and the week that will be. So tune into Hoopsville Sunday nights from 7 until 9 Eastern live on your computer. Or check out the podcast. Because if you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Hoopsville is presented by D3Hoops.com and broadcast thanks to Counter College Radio. For more information, go to www.d3hoops.com/Hoopsville.
Who are you?
Who can make you cheer?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
NCAA basketball. Who's your team? NCAA women's college basketball. All day, every day, our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day, our game. NCAA women's college basketball.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, presented by www.d3hoops.com. I want to thank them, as always, for their support. Pat Coleman will be joining us a little bit later again. We'll also hear from Bob Quillman and plenty of coaches. We'll hear from Muhlenberg's women's coach. We're going to hear from Gustavus Adolphus' women's coach, both Pool C teams at this point in time. We'll also hear from Christopher Newport's men's team, who pulled off the upset in conference play to get in the NCAA tournament. Did I forget anybody, Chris?
So far, you're good.
Very good. So lots of those coming. Email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoops. Email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Or join us in the chat room to the right. We'll love to chat with you there, and we'll answer your questions as well. And Twitter as well. There's lots of choices there. So, again, fire away. I'd love to hear what you have to say. There were a couple questions I'll be trying to get to here. One of them was Carthage. Do you think Carthage men's team will play in the first round, and do they have a chance to host a first-round game? Yes, they're going to play in the first round. Hosting, right now we're projecting that hosting opportunity not to be. They'll be traveling up to Stevens Point, is what I think Pat has done. So just keep that in mind. So anybody out there wondering, that is our projection at this point in time on the men's side. So. If you have any questions, again, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. IM us at hoopsville2000. Join us in the chat room, or IM us as well, or Twitter, or wherever you want to try and get there. Hey, we're going to go to the phone line, and that means bringing in Brad Bagson from the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. Sorry, Brad. Been thinking about 6 things here, and so on and so forth. How you doing?
Dave, I'm great. You stuttered there a little bit on knowing where I was from.
I knew where you're from.
It's hard to do that with 4 teams in contention, isn't it?
I know exactly where you're from. It's just that I got like 4 screens that pop up at me at the same time. It's sensory overload. I don't know what I'm looking at from 1 minute to the next. Hey,
I tell you, I get on there and you've got the chat room going and everything, so it's quite a busy time. I understand.
Yeah, you should see the camera shot from behind me. If I thought about setting it up so people could see my 2 computer monitors in front of me, but I also figured if I wanted to do that and do the show, it's going to get even more confusing. So I just let it be. Hey,
let's keep it simple.
Yeah, well, we passed that so long ago. It's not even funny. Hey. Again, exactly what you said. 4 teams in contention for a Pool C bid. We're predicting 4 thanks mainly in part to no upsets for the most part in the ODAC conference tournament. I have to ask first and foremost, with no major upsets in the first round, it seemed like a boring tournament.
Yeah, well, I don't think it was a boring tournament from the standpoint that we had some great competition and some wonderful crowds, and again, tribute to our programs in the league for the job that they've done this year. And top to bottom, I think the balance has never been better, and certainly proud on my part to have 4 teams recognized nationally and to have them all advance to the semifinals is almost a dream come true for everybody here. And it worked out extremely well with, of course, Guilford prevailing today in 81-65 victory over Randolph Macon. But very contested semifinals and something that we're extremely proud of.
It is impressive. Normally we're talking 2, maybe 3 teams, and usually it's the 3 like it was last year when there's an upset. that takes the Pool A bid away from who we all expected, and Hampden-Sydney got it last year. As a commissioner, did you ever expect to see 4 teams, and even at one point in time, if with an upset there was talk of 5 making the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, David, when you start thinking about the criteria and all the things that the committee goes into consideration and puts into consideration when they're picking the field, I hope there are 4 teams in consideration. And no, I probably never thought that. And it seems like yesterday that we had our preseason coaches meeting here with the Salem Rotary Club, which traditionally we do every October, end of October, and in those conversations, I think we all knew it was going to be a great year. I don't think anybody had any fathom of an idea that we might have 4 teams ranked in the top 20 throughout a good portion of the season. So I'm extremely proud of it. More what I'm proud of is that we provide the kids a good atmosphere in the conference and competitively night in and night out. We've got superior balance from top to bottom, and I don't think you'd find a coach in our league that would say anything contrary to that. So I've accomplished my goal in doing that, and certainly whatever happens in the national tournament in the bids is certainly out of my control, but we've tried to put them in the best position we can.
Well, in that case, Brad, I reward you to one more season as ODAC commissioner.
Well, I appreciate that, but there are 21 other sports that factor into the equation, so we'll have to wait to the evaluation at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, I think you got a leg up, just for the record. Hey, the one thing that's interesting, too, is you had 2 number 1 teams this year. One of them, Randolph-Macon, which kind of came out of nowhere and worked their way up the poll and became number 1, and then all of a sudden went through a tailspin. And really many people thought that, if they didn't show up, at least in the tournament, they probably weren't going to get a bid, and they certainly found a way to get to the championship game. Tell us a little bit from your vantage point, a little bit about these 4 teams, and we'll start with Randolph-Macon.
Well, I think Randolph-Macon's persevered, as you mentioned. Many people may have had a doubt. They certainly have the most losses in that group, but more importantly, they have some quality wins out of league and out of region that really have put them on the map nationally. So I would put a check mark by them in the fact that I feel comfortable that they should put themselves in a position to get in the tournament. I mean, Guilford is pretty much the same Guilford team that you saw last year. They had an opportunity to make a great run. They did in the tournament. They went out in the first round of our tournament, which I know was frustrating to Tom Palumbo, but they redeemed themselves. They make it to the Final Four. Of course, they lose to a wonderful WashU team, as we all know, and then redeem themselves against Franklin and Marshall in the third place game. And that's something we're not going to have a chance to do. Again, maybe we'll get to that shortly about no consolation game, but. Then you look at Eastern Mennonite, and here's a program with head coach Kirby Dean that have been traditionally in the bottom of at least the bottom half of our league for the majority of the last 10 to 15 years, and they made a great run. And Kirby's done a wonderful job recruiting and prepared that team to make a run. And they had a super semifinal, losing by 2 points to Randolph-Macon in a thriller, one of the best ones that I can remember in recent history. And they put themselves in a position. They want to host. They want to showcase a wonderful facility there in the Harrisburg area. And and last but not least, you've got a Virginia Wesleyan squad that I think their accomplishments over the last 3 or 4 years in the NCAA tournament and the national championship in 2006 speaks for the program that Dave Macedo is there in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. So, all quality teams, in my opinion, all deserving of an opportunity. I'm sure there are a lot of teams out there that would say exactly the same thing as I am right now, that we need a shot, and get a shot will represent our conference in the right way, and I know all 4 of them will for us.
Yeah, certainly impressive. Even on the women's side, at a Roanoke team that certainly just manhandled their way through the ODAC, but then get tripped up in the tournament, and Virginia Wesleyan, I believe, will represent the automatic qualifier?
No, Virginia Wesleyan lost in the final today, and Washington and Lee University wins the conference championship. Yep. And not only was it a first for Washington and Lee to win a women's basketball championship in our league, but it was the first time that they had an opportunity to play in the championship game. So Mandy King has done a great job with her team this year and is looking forward to moving forward as our automatic qualifier. And I've heard some different reasoning as to whether people think Roanoke is in or whether they're out, and I certainly think they're deserving. With the number of losses that they have, I certainly hope they're in. And I guess when you put yourselves in a position where you don't play in the championship game and you lose in the semifinal, from a coaching perspective, you feel like you're on be on thin ice, but I think they deserve it and certainly hope that they get the opportunity.
And of course, we have them projected to be in and traveling over to undefeated Christopher Newport. For that, I'm sorry I got the two teams backwards. I had about 6 video streams going today at one point, which I thought was cool, but then I realized about midway through the afternoon, I couldn't remember what I had just watched.
Well, we can't expect you to remember everything, but I can assure you that it's resonating in Lexington that they won the conference championship and they're ready to move forward.
Oh, I'm sure. Hey, at this point in time too, back to the men, you've got a chance at maybe 2 teams hosting conference tournaments or NCAA tournaments too. So really for the ODAC, it's been kind of a stellar year on both sides of the benches.
It really has, and again, I'm just proud of the job that we've all of our programs, and the reason why we have 4 teams, and the reason why we have 2 teams in contention on the women's side is the balance that we have in the league and the quality coaching and the programs that our institutions are running, and it's a tribute to their work. It's certainly not a tribute to the work that I do, and the championships today were Washington and Leeds and Guilford, and I had a very small part in preparing them to get to that point. They've done all the hard work, and they certainly deserve the kudos for that.
Let's jump to the other major important detail, and that is the Salem Civic Center, host of the Final Four for yet another year, and it'll be that way next year. ODAC is key in that as being the sponsor and pretty much the running of the the organizational side of things. For starters, you've got to be proud that Salem's been recognized and gets one more year out of this.
Yeah, Dave, we hope we have many more years out of this. I can tell you it's a labor of love from the city's perspective and the work that the city of Salem has done in embracing Division III athletics, not only with basketball but with football and softball and volleyball and baseball and all the many lists in lacrosse that they've hosted since 1993. So, I know Kerry Harvey Cutter is doing everything he can in his power to prepare the Civic Center to be a wonderful host again this year, and we're excited about it on March 19th and 20th that we'll be hosting the championship. We've been doing it since 1996 and hoping to have 2 great semifinals at 5 and 7 on March the 19th.
Sell people a little bit. I'm coming for my 10th year, so you got me sold. But for anybody out there, even if their team isn't making it, give them the overall sell.
Yeah, well, I think the overall sell is that you're coming to a beautiful part of the country and have an opportunity to visit an area that, as I said, loves Division III athletics and really treats the kids and provides them a championship experience that's second to none. So March the 19th, we've got a lot of things going on, of course, in the semifinals, the primary thing going on that day at 5 and 7. And as I mentioned earlier and alluded to, that there'll be no consolation game this year.
Yep.
The Division III committee decided to eliminate the consolation game, but we've got an added twist and something that I think the fans that are here visiting and with their teams will find attractive is a Division III All-Star game that really has been spearheaded by the NABC and in large part by the Congress of the NABC, along with Paige Moyer, who's the head coach at Roanoke College in our league and a member of the NABC Congress, has really pushed things through to have this Division III All-Star game that will preview, that will precede the game on March the 20th and the championship game that will be featured on live television at 1 p.m. So it's a great opportunity. Outside of that, we reward the Jostens Trophy, which goes to the male and female top basketball player in Division III, which is something that the Salem Rotary Club started many years ago and has continued to let that grow. And from what I understand, we've had the largest number of nominees on both the men and the women's side this year that we've ever had. So, of course, the interest is there in that award, and the weekend continues to become something that is really a spotlight on Division III and something that Kerry and I and everybody that's involved with it is extremely proud of.
Very good. Hey, obviously, we talked to Coach McGrath earlier about the NABC, and All-Star game, and certainly impressed with that addition. So looking forward to that as well. I know I'll probably run into one of you guys as we make our way to the Salem Civic Center for the Final Four. Obviously, you wait to find out where you and Kerry and others go, but I do have one favor to ask at Salem, if you could pull it off.
Okay, yeah, I'm listening.
I love how the your second in command, JJ, works hard. I also love how he's got the same initials as our favorite mascot at the Final Four, JJ Jumper.
Okay.
So do me a favor. I want to find out that JJ is JJ.
Okay. Well,
So-
I can assure you that. How about this? If JJ is here, I'll make sure that JJ wears JJ's hat. If that's not confusing enough.
I want to see JJ in JJ's costume.
Okay. Well, I'll do everything in my power with the NCAA marketing people to have JJ in JJ's costume. And what we know of JJ, he may be less of JJ if he's in JJ's costume. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense, and I'm loving it. I'm waiting for the text message or the phone call from our good friend yelling at me for the idea.
Well, there's no need for him to yell. He's sitting here eating pizza and recovering from 14 games in 4 days.
What did he really do?
I would have to say he did a tremendous amount of work this week. We'll credit him for a job well done, along with the staff and the Salem Rotary Club for what they do for our tournament.
No, it's always impressive. Congratulations on at least another year. By the way, before I let you go, are you ever aware if there's anybody who ever tries to bid to take the tournament? Are you aware of that whenever the process goes through its paces?
Sure, I think because of the relationship the city has with the NCAA and the work that they've done with the championships, that if there's somebody that's bidding in the process to have the championship weekend, that we would know about that. Whether that changes the job that we've done or the job that we would do in the future. I can tell you we continually try to find innovative things that we can do with the student athletes, given the limited amount of time that they're here, to provide them a better atmosphere. So, again, we've put our best foot forward every year. We'll continue to do that and appreciate everything that you guys have done in supporting Division III athletics, because really and truly, Division III basketball hit the mainstream with the work that you guys have done with D3Hoops.com. It's become a cult following, and it's certainly commendable from Pat and all the work that you've done in Hoopsville as you guys move forward for the work that you put in.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. We'll be back down in Salem, special on Thursday night, as always, I believe, from Hotel Roanoke, which has been a blast. So if you get a chance, drop on by. Otherwise, we'll certainly see you at the Civic Center for the Final Four and such.
Dave, we're looking forward to it, and don't keep alluding to we only have 1 year in the contract left. Think about the future, Dave. I encourage you to think about the future.
I'm just passing the information on to everybody else. I figure you guys got 10 more years in this contract.
Well, I like to hear that, and again, we want to keep it, and we want to move forward, and we look forward to welcoming you and the crew back again. And if there's anything we can do for you between now and then, we certainly welcome the phone call.
I told you, JJ in JJ's costume.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, Brad, thanks.
Dave, I'll deliver. I always do.
Oh, I want video. Hey, Thanks so much. Take care, and we will certainly talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
All right, take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Brad Bankston joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him joining us and doing that. By the way, if you have any more questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. That is hoopsville2000. Or join us in the chat room to the right of your monitor. Or also join us on Twitter. By the way, I do know there was a huge buffering there for a while for many of you who are listening. Not sure what that deal was, but I suggest during a commercial break you refresh and you'll catch up to the show. I know many of you are maybe even a couple minutes behind the show live as a result. So just a suggestion there. Got a couple quick questions I'll try and get to. Looking at the winners Saturday and Sunday, Great Lakes winners included Franklin DePaul, Illinois Wesleyan, Denison, Mount Union, Thomas More. Who do you think will host? Steve, I'm a little lost as to who you're asking, because Illinois Wesleyan's not in the Great Lakes, and I'm not sure if you're talking men or women. So do me a favor, Steve. Check that out again and double check who you're men or women and what region specifically you're chatting about, and then email me back. Got another game. Is this game a virtual lock to happen? It's CMS versus Chapman, or is there any way there could be another matchup for them? If this is a lock, what are your thoughts on the game, and where the winner would head? Would it be Whitworth again, or possibly a trip to Texas, Minnesota, or Wisconsin? I think it's a lock to happen. I hate to say it. I don't see anybody else coming out of the SCIAC except for CMS, Claremont Mudd Scripps. Oh, Pat Coleman, I think, might be calling in, or maybe not. We'll see here. Pat Pat's got a comment. He says CMS beat Chapman earlier. Should be a good game. That's what he wanted to allude to, and he's right. It should be a very good game. As far as where do they go, I'm quite sure they're going to go up the coast to Whitworth. I doubt they're going to be flown to Texas, Minnesota, or Wisconsin because the winner of the second round game is going to be flying anyway, and I'd be pretty hard pressed to believe they're going to fly him twice. So that's my thought. Just my thought. That's how it works. Anyway, that's hope that answered your question. If you have any more questions, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Again, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. By the way, if it was a women you were talking about in that Great Lakes region, the previous emailer, remember Thomas, it probably is women you were talking about. Illinois Wesleyan is in the Midwest, and that's where I'm getting confused. As far as hosting, go to d3hoops.com. We got our brackets up, and I'll check real quick what Pat had written. And he has Thomas More and Illinois Wesleyan hosting. So that should answer your question on the women's side. Right, Midwest Central. I should say women is Central. So, hey, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up, I've lost track. Chris, who's coming up?
Gustavus Adolphus.
Oh, speaking of women's basketball and Pool C, we're going to talk to Gustavus Adolphus' head coach to see what they think will be going and getting in, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, Carthage hosting. Yes, Carthage hosting as well. Thank you for the reminder. Appreciate it. So we're going to take a break. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. If you have any questions, email us at Hoopsville@D3Hoops.com. IM us at Hoopsville2000, or join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville, or join us in the chat room. I know there's a number of people there. By the way, there was one question about seating. Remember, there's no real seating in Division III, but there was a question about Middlebury men getting a chance to host, and that there's an outside chance they get a chance. I just think against Williams it's going to be tough. So, just my thoughts. But a ton of people in the chat room, and there's a ton of you listening. We're one of the top 5 shows on Ustream in the sports category, so I appreciate everybody joining us. We're going to take a break. And remember, during the break, maybe refresh your screen so we get a better idea, or audio, I should say, so you can catch up with the show a little bit. I know a lot of people are a little bit behind. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back right after this.
Daddy, I'm only 3 years old, but when you look at me, I could see the wheels turning. You're dreaming about what am I going to be when I grow up? A major league first baseman? Maybe a point guard for a national championship team? Or the winner of the Heisman Trophy?
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete? 1 in 16,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Dad, let's keep dreaming the impossible while looking out for the possible, okay?
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Did you know there's only one radio show dedicated to Division III basketball in the world?
Welcome to the big show.
It's Hoopsville. You can tune into Hoopsville throughout the season on Sunday and Thursday nights, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, live on your computer. Just go to www.d3hoopsville.com for more information, because if you're a Division III basketball fan, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Hoopsville is presented thanks to d3hoops.com and in part by the National Association of Basketball Coaches.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
Effort, drive, and determination build champions. Be there March 19th through 20th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia for the 2010 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, hosted by Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. For tickets, call 540-375-3004 or log on to ncaa.com/tickets.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting out of the Hoopsville studios, thanks to D3Hoops.com and, of course, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. That's hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. You can also join us on AOL-IM. Hoopsville 2000 is your AOL-IM. Join us in the chat room as well. There's a number of people in there and chatting it up. So please don't be afraid to ask a question in there, and either Pat Coleman or myself or somebody else, even a fan, might answer your question for you, and so on and so forth. I know there's that question again about John Carroll hosting. Pat believes it'll be Worcester, or John Carroll hosting. I think it's going to be Worcester, but lots of in-betweens. So lots of things going on. Let's remind everybody, by the way, that the men will be announced tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. by the NCAA.com. That's where you're going to find it. We'll certainly provide a link on D3Hoops.com. If it crashes, which we all think it will, we'll post the brackets as soon as we can. On the women's side, it'll be announced at 12:30 p.m., so the same deal. Regional rankings, when will the final release be? Not actually sure, to be honest with you, when that will happen. As soon as we get them, though, we will post them. So lots to work on in between now and then. Let's jump over to the women's side of things. And joining us on another Pool C bid team, per se, and that is Gustavus Adolphus. And joining us on the phone is their women's coach, Coach Mickey Haler. Coach, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
I assume I said your name correctly.
Well, you're close. It's Haller, but that's okay.
Oh, Haller. See, it's a 50-50 for me, and
I know.
I meant to actually chat with you, but as everybody is, we're all pretty busy. So thanks for at least dealing with my butchering of the name there.
No problem.
Hey, obviously, let's talk about your team at this point in time, and where you guys stand at this point in time in making the NCAA tournament. Tough loss to St. Thomas in the championship, I believe it was. Your thoughts on the game and the way you guys finished?
We lost two games, very close, to St. Ben's and to St. Thomas, and I think that both games were decided in the last minute, which is really tough when you've gone through, as you know, the MIC long schedule. We have a lot of games that we play against each other, and to get into that tournament is big. And then to not be able to finish by like 2 or 3 points is really tough for us.
Sure.
So.
And it was a semifinal game. You guys lost to St. Thomas. St. Thomas went on to win the conference title and take that automatic qualifier. So certainly a lot of work ahead. What do you think your chances are from your point of view?
I like our chances. The MIC, again, strong conference. As is the West Conference itself, with NWC, FCISC, and the IAAC. It's just a tough call. We'd like to believe that we get a little credit out here, because when we do play each other, we have to travel distances to do that. And we have certainly had some teams play out in the West Coast and in the Central region. So I really hope that the fact that we have played these teams will play into where we end up in the conference call tomorrow.
Sure. And obviously, by the way, our predictions have you getting in with St. Benedict right at the last second, the last two in. So really, when it comes to the committee, though, they're looking at you and St. Benedict's, and this is why both of you made it in on our side of things. It's almost hard to tell you two apart when it comes to overall record and strength of schedule and et cetera, et cetera. You guys almost are mirrors of each other.
We are, and I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that, because we are. It is. It's what I love is that we have 3 20-win teams in here, and I know that a lot of teams are like, we play each other, but that's the whole point, that we still ended up with 20-win seasons. We have 3 teams that I think are worthy of getting in. St. Thomas certainly they came blasting through at the end. 2 incredibly close games against the top 2 teams in our region, I think. So,
if you were to make the argument, if it came down to you or St. Benedict's to make the NCAA tournament, what would your argument be?
Well, I'm the coach for Gus Davis.
Right.
I need to go. No, I think my only thought there is, again, I think St. Ben's and us deserve both to be in the tournament. We certainly have 2 wins against St. Thomas versus Ben's with 2 losses. That might be the overriding factor right now. That's all I got for you.
Okay. No, I was giving you a chance.
We are that. I think we are that close.
Well, even Wartburg and Eau Claire, the results were the same.
Exactly. And you look at our games when we beat Ben's at our house. I believe we beat them by 3, and when they beat us at their house, they beat us by 3. So even that, you can't even go to, point spread against these 2 teams. I think both teams deserve to be in. I think it happens all the time, and it's very sad. And we love the playoff. We love the tournament. We love going there. But a lot of times teams get left out because, they get beat in the tournament, which Ben's and us both did, which is too bad because I think these are 2 teams that certainly deserve to be in the game, into the tournament. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
So your argument would be St. Thomas?
Yes.
That's all right. Don't be ashamed.
I'm not.
Okay.
I just want to. I want you guys to know how much respect I have for the St. Ben's program and for what they've done and how good of a team they are. But I think it's simply a tough call, and it's going to come down to the national call and see what happens.
And Coach, don't worry, because if by the way, that national call is probably taking place as we speak. If it was St. Ben's on the phone with us, I'd ask the same question. So don't worry, equal opportunity guy.
I'm thinking that Mike Durbin would say the same things that I do too. It's it's just a really tough call. I like the fact that on our region we have given credence somewhat to the fact that certainly the whole season needs to take place, and to look at the strength of schedule, and to look at these 2 teams finished number 1 in their conferences, and you got to give credence. You got to give credence to St. Thomas, who came through and beat these on the road 3 teams in a row.
Right.
So, yeah.
One of the interesting factors too is you out of your 25 games technically scheduled, 22 are in conference. So really, one of the biggest reasons we can't tell the difference between you and St. Ben's is the schedule doesn't allow you to have any other,
we don't.
options. Would you advocate splitting up this league into divisions so you get a few extra non-conference games?
We definitely like playing each other. If we could be on the men's side, they have 1 less conference game, and I think that might be perfect. So I don't know how we could adjust our conference schedule to allow for, let's schedule 5 non-conference games, which would be perfect, and go there. I think if you looked at our conference, it would be very, very hard to split it. We have a couple teams in the south, we have a couple teams in the north, but a large part of our conference is right in the cities, and I don't know how we would split that. Would we like to do that? I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
that didn't answer that very well.
No,
I apologize for that. But that's a really tough question, because I think we have to. The other part of that too is that the teams that we play in our conference, who are at the bottom of our conference, unfortunately, they have to play us and Ben's and St. Thomas and Concordia and whoever, McAllister, whoever's always been at the top of that kind of deal, and they kind of get left out too, because they can't schedule anybody else. So their 1 loss is low. Our 1 loss, I don't know.
No, I understand. It's certainly challenging. Hey, let's quickly ask you about your team a little bit, and I'm not even going to take a stab at it because I'm going to screw up names left and right. I can tell already. But give us a little bit of a
You got Haller wrong, for Pete's sake.
I know. Seriously, if I can't get Haller, how am I supposed to get either of Molly's names right? And by the way, there's 2 Mollys, which makes it even worse. But give us a little bit of lowdown to your team.
Well, we have Molly Geske, who we call G, our sophomore. She's been leading us in scoring for the most part, and to be honest, she's kind of her, and then we have Bree Radke. Those are our two go-to players. But I have to be honest, Molly Mathewitz, who is our kid from Sleepy Eye St. Mary's up in Minnesota there, she is our key inside kid, and she didn't even play against St. Thomas a week ago when we played them, and we did win that game. She's been down with the flu and on IVs and trying to get back going. So the last couple of games for her have really struggled, and our game plan definitely is to get the ball into Molly Mathewitz. If we can do that, that opens up the game for Bree Radke and for Molly Geske. Just a thought on that. But, every team comes, we all have injuries. We all have illnesses, and ours happened to come in at a bad time. Bree Radke went down with a very bad ankle sprain in our first half on Wednesday and came back and played, and we know that we need her on the court, but as far as defensively, she just couldn't play the way that she has for us all season long. And she's been 4 years solid, so we just keep going to her just because she took our last shot in that game, just because we knew that if we're going to go to somebody, we're going to go to our senior, we're going to go to our point guard, one of the top players in our conference.
The team is pretty good statistically. You look at it, you got 3 players in double figures, which is always nice. You're outscoring your opponents by 9 points a game nearly, but you're holding opponents to only 60 points a game. What has been the secret weapon maybe or the team mentality when it comes to this season and the way you've played ball?
Our always, for us, it's defense. So the fact that we're holding our opponents to 60 might be a good stat. We would love to have that down in the 50s somewhere, and I got to tell you flat out, because we definitely feel like defense is how we win games. Defense wins championships.
Yes.
Tournaments. Yeah, it does. And that's the way that I certainly have always coached, and I have a great staff, and they're behind me 100% in that, and that's what we focus on is our defense. The plus this year has definitely been our offense, and the fact that we are so balanced. We'll have 3 or 4 different players sometimes, coming up with the double digits for us. But I still have to go back to our defense. I think that's why we have been successful in the past, and that's why our success this year has pushed it into even being a factor in, the Pool C bid.
Yeah, certainly interesting to say the least. Is there anything you go back and look at the season and wish you had done better? Trick question. It's a trick question.
Yeah. No, it's not, because, as a coach, you always look back, and even just our last game, it's like there had to have been something that we could have done, whether it be a change in our defense or, an offensive call that we could have done to make ourselves, win that particular game. But overall, throughout the season, I feel like we have done a great job of proving ourselves to be in the top of, certainly our region.
Sure.
And that has showed up in our rankings throughout. So, of course, there are things we want to do differently.
I was kind of setting that up.
I think, yeah, I know. It's like, for me though, it's more. I think our players, our kids that have played for us, have done everything that we have asked them to do. They've gone out there. We've led our conference in steals and defense, and we're in the top in assists and the top in actually our turnovers have been amazing. And sometimes I think we might be better off when we have more turnovers than less, which is really hard for me to say as a coach. But because we don't want our players to feel like they can't just go out there and get things done, and sometimes that creates turnovers too.
Sure.
On whatever, but yeah, I hate to say that, because we definitely across the board a lot of times we look at our games that we have played, and statistically you could look down the line and think, whoa, they should have won that game, and we probably feel like we should have, but we didn't. So we put ourselves in this place, and we're going to wait, and we're going to see, and I still think we're one of the top teams in the country, as I do with St. Thomas and St. John's, and hopefully we will get that bid, and we'll be in there.
Very good. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you joining us on the phone tonight. to talk about the opportunities. And as always, we give the coach the final word, final thought, anything you want to share with those who may be listening tonight.
You know, a lot of people out there are listening right now, and I have to say that Division III, hands down, best division in NCAA, and that's obviously I'm coaching there, but I can't imagine coaching at a better place than Gustavus and in a better division or a better region than the West region.
Very good. Hey, Coach, thanks so much. Good luck. Obviously, we'll know by about somewhere between 12:30 and 1 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, pins and needles.
Yep, definitely. Take care.
Okay.
Gustavus Adolphus head coach Mickey Haller joining us here on Hoopsville. Appreciate her doing that. Coach Ron Roan is calling in from Muhlenberg. We'll get him on in just a few seconds here. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. That is hoopsville2000. Join us in the chat room. That's always popular, and certainly a lot of people in there as well. Or you can certainly also... what was the other option? Oh, yeah, join us on Twitter, D3Hoopsville. Lots of questions in the chat room. I know a lot of people are trying to take care of that, but also questions here, so feel free to email us or fire off at us. Sorry, I got three things popping up at the same time. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. So if you have any questions, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us in the chat room or join us on Twitter as well. It is good to hear from our good friend Ray Martell, by the way. Don't know if he's listening to the show or not, but he just IM'd me, so... good to hear from him. So we're going to jump over to another bubble team on the women's side, and that's thanks to a McDaniel win today. Muhlenberg women's basketball coach Ron Roan joins us on the program. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good. It would feel better if we won the game today and I could just, worry about some other stuff. But
sure.
It's that time of year, man.
It is certainly that time of year. Hey, let's talk about that game against McDaniel, and we'll talk about a little later to everybody why we think McDaniel's win actually helped Gettysburg get in as well. But from your point of view, what happened today?
Well, McDaniel's a very good team, as is Gettysburg, as you were mentioning. And just two tough teams playing well. We got a lot of good looks we didn't hit early, and I think we got a little frustrated. Made a great run to come back from a 15-point deficit to tie it, and then just had one of those streaks where a few balls kept rolling off the rim. We couldn't score. But McDaniel's very good. Gettysburg's very good. Even like Dickinson on our league went 17-9 this year.
Yeah.
And Johns Hopkins 15-10. You know what happens in our league? We got a 20-game round-robin schedule now in our league.
Right.
So not many teams outside of our league get to see us play very often, and almost never get to see teams in our league play in the second half of the season.
Sure.
So we sort of get hidden a little bit, I think.
Yeah, certainly. It's interesting, though, you were going for the three-peat in the conference title. This conference has been for a few years now, with maybe 1 year where it wasn't. Certainly a battle of 3 or 4 teams for a conference title, and really getting into the NCAA tournament. It certainly raised the stakes, I'm sure, from your point of view.
No question. I mean, last year was sort of an aberration. We went 18-0 in the league and really soared through it. But most years, even the 4 or 5 game winner can win the tournament.
Yeah.
So it's very competitive. There's some very, very good teams out there. I sort of agree with you what you were saying about Gettysburg. I really do think McDaniel beating us will help Gettysburg a little bit in the selection.
Yeah, it helps their strength of schedule quite a bit.
Helps them. And the other thing is, if McDaniel was an at-large team, they'd be sitting there ahead of them with that 3-0 head-to-head.
Right.
And Gettysburg may have had better numbers on a national basis than McDaniel, but couldn't get past that head-to-head.
Yeah, certainly.
So, how the numbers work out, it's a strange thing in Division III. It's who you're matched up and who they're comparing you against.
Right.
And so hopefully that'll work out for our league. We can get 3 teams in the tournament to go. But our league is very tough, and I'll tell you, from what I've seen, any of those 3 teams could make a run and win some games in the tournament.
Of course, your team's the favorite, right?
The favorite? It's my favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my favorite, I can tell you that. Sometimes it's just matchups and who you play pretty well. I mean, Gettysburg's sitting there at 22-4. and they lost 3 times to McDaniel and lost to us when we scored 5 seconds to go down 1. That's their 4 losses. I mean, they're a pretty good team.
Let's talk a little bit about the Mid-Atlantic region, something I've been saying for weeks. I've never seen this region so tough and deep, really, from Kane to you guys to everybody. And I alluded it to Gordon Mann earlier in the show. Whoever comes out of here is going to have gone through what I call a gauntlet to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, you know, there's some years where some regions, I know there's some years where the Wisconsin schools seem like their 5th place team could win the national championship. And this is a year where the East Coast, maybe the snow belt, we can call it this year.
Yeah, seriously.
If you got 2 feet of snow, you have a pretty good team this year. You're right. Kane is good. William Patterson's very good. I mean, if you look at last week's Mid-Atlantic rankings, you had Moravian, Scranton, Messiah, Leadville, Muhlenberg, McDaniel. Gettysburg wasn't even ranked in the region.
Right.
I mean, that's a strong.
Well, a couple
region.
Weeks ago, McDaniel wasn't ranked in the region.
Correct. But I mean, we've had one of those things. I mean, they went on a 17-game winning streak.
Yeah.
After losing their first 4 games of the year,
and still couldn't get in the regional rankings.
Right, because those losses were holding them back.
Right.
But you take a team that's not even maybe that close to the rankings, like now DeSales, who's won 11 in a row, and obviously has a great pedigree. To be worried about them if you're playing them in the NCAA tournament. So there's some really good teams in the Mid-Atlantic this year, no question.
Do you have any worry that you guys aren't going to make the tournament?
Yeah, I always worry. You know, the second line in your contract when you sign as a coach says worry about everything.
Sure.
You always worry that a committee sees things different than you do, or maybe the regional rankings. I sort of feel like 80-90% will be there.
Okay.
What do you guys think? Do you think we're close to the end, or you think we're dead center?
No, I think you're dead center. If I remember correctly, I'm calling that up as we speak.
Right.
I had it here a minute ago, and I, of course, then closed it. Being the genius that I am, I would never need that again. We've got you 14 out of 21.
How about that? Well, great minds think alike. Last night, I sort of went down your numbers in the strength of schedule and looked at the regional rankings, and I had us about number 14 in the at-large teams if we would lose. So
it's not
hopefully
bad.
We're both right.
Yeah, hopefully.
I don't want to be 22.
Coach, tell me a little about your team. We didn't get a chance to talk to you this season. Sure. Give us the lowdown on your team.
You know, it was an interesting team this year. And today was a perfect example. We don't have great inside strength as far as a lot of big kids, so we're much more dependent on how we shoot the ball. And today we went 1 for 24 on threes.
Yeah, that's going to hurt.
That's going to hurt very much, especially when you have kids who can make threes like we do. A kid like Alex Chili, who led the nation last year and made threes as a sophomore. We probably have the best little player in America in Kelly McKeon, who was Centennial Conference Player of the Year as a she likes to be called a 5'6" point guard, but we'll measure her one day and see if that's true. Who last year averaged 8.5 rebounds a game, and this year averaged 7.5 rebounds a game. I mean, for a 5'5", 5'6" kid to be among the top 4 or 5 rebounders in a conference is unbelievable. And anybody who's seen her play, she's tremendous. So those 2 kids sort of make us go, and then we've got a nice post player in Sheila Cook. We've got 4 seniors who really do a great job. They don't put up a lot of stats, but they defend, they rebound, they do all the little things that make a team successful. And then we've got some very good freshmen who have contributed in their spots this year. So I think we have a nice team if we get the right matchups. If you get in a tournament, sometimes it's not where you're seated, it's who you're matched up against.
Yeah, certainly. That makes a big difference for a lot of people. And obviously the matchups are key. Chances, obviously, you're going to be traveling, and you got to wait to see who you're going to be picking up. Yeah. Is there any team you want to have?
I don't think there's any team I want to have, though last year they made us drive all the way to Bowdoin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that now.
Which was a great experience as we became the first team to ever win a postseason game at Bowdoin, which
right.
was an all-time, great moment in the history of the program. So in trying to figure out where we're going to go, we sort of drove a 500-mile radius around Muhlenberg and tried to find what colleges were closest to that line, because we figured that's where the NCAA is going to send us. It's a little bit of both. The last 2 times we've been in the tournament on the road, we've gone to Bowdoin and to Mary Washington. Those are pretty long trips.
Yeah.
And then we hosted 2 years ago.
Right.
But when you go on those long trips, your team also gets more of a sense of being in a national championship tournament than if you play 15, 20 miles down the road.
True.
You know, so I mean, for us, places nothing against Mary Beth Burke or anything, but Moravian's about, across the street from us. We'd prefer to maybe travel a little bit and have a little more fun. The kids are hoping for the West Coast, but I told them...
Oh, that's not happening.
The NCAA does not do that. So I did see in your projections, I think if we would get to the 16, we'd probably be in Seattle or something.
Really? Hold on. Let me find you guys. I got it here.
Projections, not mine.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm putting these as the D3Hoops.com Ron Roan projections. Here we go. Hold on. I can't find you guys. Hold on.
I think we were at the bottom left. I think you had us at... Oh, no, that's the Messiah bracket, not us.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's Messiah. You're at Muhlenberg.
Right, we would be at Lev Val, I think, in your projection.
Yes, there you are, Muhlenberg. Yes. You would probably be traveling to Amherst. Or, right. Yeah, you'll probably be traveling to Amherst. So, which not as far as Maine. You get about 3/4 of the way there.
Well, we were at Amherst in the Sweet 16 last year.
That's true.
So we know the restaurants, we know the hotels. That would be fine. That would work good. Once you get in a tournament, you just want to play.
Yeah.
And for Muhlenberg's never received that large bid to the tournament.
Yeah.
We've always had to win a championship to go.
Right.
So maybe this will be a new experience for us. And like I said, there's a lot of good teams out there, and you got to just go and play the games and have some fun.
Certainly. Good pizza place, I've been told as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of good places up in Amherst. We enjoyed ourselves on that trip, and we were in Bowdoin. We were on the only warm day in Bowdoin. We were up in Bowdoin.
What?
And it got so warm, the snow melted and started flooding the locker rooms.
Oh, I remember that.
So. They've never seen it 40 degrees in February up in
no, that's not entirely true. That's not entirely true.
I'm just kidding. It was my first ever trip to Maine.
Well, welcome to where my parents have lived for the last 22+ years. So.
Okay.
Hey, Coach. Okay. Oh, by the way, they're as far northeast as you can get. So Brunswick is civilization in comparison. Hey, Coach, appreciate you joining us on the line. I got to get going here so we don't lose our archive at least. But thanks for joining us. Any final words you want to share with those listening?
No. Good luck to everybody out there, and I'm hoping I'll be talking to you a couple more times next few weeks, because that means we're still playing.
That is true. That is true. Coach, good luck.
Thank you so much.
No problem, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Coach Ron Roan joining us here on Hoopsville. We're going to take a quick break here in a minute and get everything rolling. Bob Quillman will be calling us soon. We're going to hear from Christopher Newport's coach, and, of course, Pat Coleman will be back on the line with us as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. If you have any questions, email us at Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. That's Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. You can also IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM, or join us in the chat room. There's lots of people in the chat room chatting it up, so please feel free to do that. If you have any questions, do it that way. We'll certainly look forward to hearing from you. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll be back right after this.
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Did you know Division III basketball has a radio show completely dedicated to them every week?
Welcome to the big show.
Well, they do. You can tune into Hoopsville every Sunday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern